Chapter 1. Boom. There was a dull sound, as if a heavy hammer hit Lin Feng on the head. He stumbled backwards, clutching his head in pain. When he raised his head with difficulty, the scene in front of him stunned him for a moment. His wife, Zhou Tu, the gentle and virtuous woman with whom he had always had a harmonious relationship, he was standing in front of him at this moment, holding a baseball bat tightly in his hand and with an indifferent expression on his face. The tenderness of the past was gone from her eyes, leaving only determination and coldness. This is... Lin Feng's voice trembled, he couldn't believe what he saw. However, what shocked him even more was yet to come. The mirror hanging on the wall suddenly cracked, and a tall and strong man holding a kitchen knife walked out. He looked much taller than Lin Feng, and there was a fierce aura in his eyes. Zhou Tu snuggled up to the man like a little bird, her eyes full of dependence and trust. Brother Chiang, we have no food left. Only if we kill him will we have a chance to survive. Hearing this, Lin Feng's heart sank to the bottom. He looked at the two people in front of him and felt an indescribable despair. He struggled several times but was unable to stand up. Ting, who is he? What are you going to do? Lin Feng's voice was trembling and despairing. He still couldn't believe what he saw. He thought they were the closest couple, but now it seemed that everything was fake. Zhang Jiang sneered and said sarcastically. Lin Feng, don't you understand yet? You are just a tool for us to make money. What? Lin Feng's heart trembled suddenly, he couldn't believe his ears. He had always thought they were a happy family, but now it seemed that he was just a pawn being used. Zhang Jiang continued. But I should still thank you for raising me for 5 years. If I hadn't run out of food, I wouldn't have been willing to kill you. Hearing this, Lin Feng was struck by lightning. He felt like his world had completely collapsed. 5 years, isn't that when he first married Zhou Tu? No wonder Zhou Tu has always refused to have children, it turns out it is because of this reason. He felt his heart being torn apart, with pain and anger intertwined. Green hat. He felt that his dignity had been completely trampled upon. He hated himself for being so stupid and not seeing Zhou Tu's true face earlier. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes, his heart filled with despair and anger. If I could turn back time, I would never let you go. I will make you suffer all the pain in the world. But now, he has accepted his fate. He knew that he could not change the past, nor could he change the present facts. Zhang Jiang was about to speak but was stopped by Zhou Tu. Brother Chiang, stop talking nonsense to him. I'm so hungry. Hearing this, Zhang Jiang nodded slightly and waved the kitchen knife in his hand continuously. Puff, puff, these two sounds seemed to be the sound of a blade cutting through flesh from the depths of hell. Each knife pierced deeply into Lin Feng's skin, and blood gushed out like a wild beast being released. It stained his clothes red and dripped onto the cold floor. He bit his lower lip tightly and didn't make any screams. For Lin Feng, although the physical pain at this moment was severe, it was far less than the pain he suffered in his heart. The pain of being betrayed by the one you love, the cold despair of human nature, like an invisible sharp blade, it pierced into the depths of his soul again and again, causing him unbearable pain. Perhaps due to excessive blood loss, Lin Feng fell into a coma and his consciousness became increasingly blurred. His eyes gradually became dark, and the sounds in his ears became more and more distant. The body was getting colder and colder, as if being swallowed by endless darkness. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng suddenly woke up. His heart beat faster, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and for a moment he couldn't even tell where he was. I blinked hard and gradually adapted to the light in front of me. What comes into view is the bright moon outside the window. What happened? Wasn't I killed by that BD couple? Looking around, I saw the familiar wardrobe, TV, and mirror, and then I realized that this was indeed his bedroom. Is this a dream? No. He felt the change in temperature. It was no longer as freezing cold as it was after the end of the world. Could it be that I was reborn? He suppressed the surprise in his heart and looked at the calendar on the bedside table in the moonlight. May 1st, 2060. I was truly reborn, back to 3 months before the end of the world. August 1st, 2060 will be the day when global temperatures will drop sharply. In Haining, a southern city, the temperature will reach -20 degrees Celsius overnight. Heavy snow will continue for more than 10 days, covering all roads, and the temperature will continue to drop. This would not only lead to plant extinction, but also cause a 90% mortality rate in humans. In a world where supplies are scarce and rules collapse, people will do whatever it takes to survive. For stutterers, anything can happen. Even so, it cannot meet people's needs. In the end, people could only kill each other, and even cannibalism occurred. It is precisely because of this doomsday environment that Zhou Tu and Zhang Jiang, this pair of dogs and bee, exposed their cruel and ruthless nature. Damn it, God has given me another chance, just wait and see how I'm going to kill you guys. There was a cold light flashing in Lin Feng's eyes, and his heart was filled with determination and the flame of revenge. He knew very well that he had the opportunity to start over, and this time, he would never let those who betrayed him succeed. What's going on? Lin Feng suddenly felt a white light flashing deep in his brain. Concentrate your consciousness and explore towards the light, and a wonderful space will gradually appear before your eyes. Is this another dimension? The benefits of rebirth. I tried to control it with my mind, and the slippers beside the bed disappeared and were quietly placed in the space. With another thought, the slippers returned to the ground. Haha, God is helping me. Not only did it allow me to be reborn, but it also gave me access to a different dimension. This makes it convenient for me to stock up on supplies. This couldn't help but make Lin Feng very excited. In the end times, the alien space is undoubtedly a powerful artifact. If there was no different space, he would need to find a safe place and build a warehouse to store supplies. But in that case, not only the safety of the warehouse cannot be fully guaranteed, but the heating of the warehouse will also be a headache. Now, with the existence of the different space, these problems are easily solved. He can take out the necessary supplies anytime and anywhere without worrying about any problems. Chapter 2. Crack. A slight noise broke the silence of the bedroom. Lin Feng immediately looked towards the source of the sound alertly, and saw a slight vibration in the mirror. He sneered in his heart, knowing that Zhou Tu was having a tryst with that wild man in the secret room. Burning with rage, Lin Feng clenched his fists, wishing he could rush in immediately and kill the couple with a knife. However, reason told him not to act impulsively. His current strength was not enough to fight against that man, not to mention that there were two of them. Once you take action, you may be killed. Moreover, Lin Feng also knew that even if he could successfully kill the couple, he would not be able to escape legal sanctions. He doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in prison after the end of the world. What he wanted was to make this pair of dogs suffer and pay a heavy price. Now, Lin Feng has the powerful artifact of the alien space. He can store enough supplies, build an indestructible safe house for yourself. With these 2 points, he could make this couple suffer. The mirror was slowly pushed open and Zhou Tu walked cautiously to the bedside. When she got into the quilt, Lin Feng turned over and suddenly spoke. Did you go to the bathroom? The sudden voice startled Zhou Tu. She patted her chest and spoke calmly. Well, maybe I ate something bad and my stomach feels a little uncomfortable. Zhou Tu appeared calm on the surface, but her heart was in turmoil. For the past 5 years, she has added sleeping pills to Lin Feng's milk every night. Lin Feng sleeps till dawn every day and never makes a mistake. What happened today? Did he discover something? I was so nervous that I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Lin Feng was the same, his eyes were fixed on the mirror on the wall, thinking about his next plan. The next day, Zhou Tu and Lin Feng pretended to be normal and did not show any abnormality. After Lin Feng had the sumptuous breakfast that Zhou Tu prepared for him, he went to work at the company as usual. Zhou Tu stood in front of the window, watching Lin Feng's car slowly drive out of the community. She didn't turn until his car disappeared from her sight, then she walked towards the secret room behind the mirror. The secret room was carefully built by Zhou Tu, and only she and Zhang Jiang knew of its existence. She opened the door of the secret room, and Zhang Jiang stretched and walked out. Has that evil creature left? Zhou Tu nodded, closed the door, and turned to look at Zhang Jiang. Brother Jiang, when I came out of the secret room last night, Lin Feng suddenly woke up. Her voice was trembling, and she was obviously still worried about what happened last night. Zhang Jiang frowned when he heard this. Did he say anything? Or was there anything different from usual? Zhou Tu pondered for a moment and shook her head. No, it's still the same as before. Zhang Jiang felt relieved and sneered. Don't worry, no man will remain indifferent when he finds out he's been cuckolded. Give him a higher dose of sleeping pills tonight. Zhou Tu didn't say anything, but her worries did not diminish. She knew that once Lin Feng discovered this secret, they would lose their only source of income. Not only does she have to support Zhang Jiang, but she also has elderly parents to care for. Lin Feng has to pay for all of this. After arriving at the company, Lin Feng came to his office. The secretary, wearing black stockings and high heels as usual, brought him a cup of coffee. Mr. Lin, do you need any other service for your coffee? The words were full of teasing. Lin Feng took the coffee, his eyes inadvertently swept across Li Mi's round buttocks, and a ripple flashed through his heart. He admitted that he was really stupid in the past. He had such a beautiful girl by his side but remained indifferent. He took a sip of coffee, a playful smile on his face. What kind of service is available? Hearing this, Li Mi was obviously stunned. She had taken the initiative to extend an olive branch to Lin Feng many times. However, Lin Feng didn't react at all. What happened today? Are you going to accept me? Of course, I can do anything as long as Mr. Lin needs me to do. Even now, I won't refuse. As she spoke, Li Mi took the initiative to sit on Lin Feng's lap. Lin Feng did not refuse and enjoyed the softness of Li Mi's body. As the vice president of an investment company, Lin Feng has an annual salary of 1 million, and there are countless people who are willing to throw themselves into his arms. But he is very loyal. After meeting Zhou Tu, he has never had much contact with any woman. However, he had important things to do now and was not in the mood to enjoy Li Mi's service. I have to say that Li Mi's figure is not comparable to Zhou Tu's, with a protruding front and a curved back, and extremely soft. Lin Feng stroked Li Mi's buttocks and said. Well, I'll remember what you said. You can go out first. I'll find you when I need you. Okay, Mr. Lin, you're always welcome. After saying that, Li Mi walked out with brisk steps. She had been waiting for this moment for 2 years. On her first day at the company, she was looking forward to something happening between her and Lin Feng. The wish is finally coming true. After Li Mi walked out of the office, Lin Feng stood quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, holding the cup of steaming coffee in his hand. The end of the world is approaching, and the most important things are safety and supplies. First, he needed to build a safe house, a place that could protect against outside intrusions and provide shelter. Secondly, he needs a large amount of material reserves. Food, water, medicine, daily necessities, these are all essential. He planned to use his spatial ability to store these supplies to ensure that he would have enough resources to survive in the apocalypse. However, all this requires a lot of money to support. For Lin Feng, money is not a problem. As a financial expert, he roams the stock market every day and has a keen insight into the market trends. He clearly remembered the direction of the stock market in the 3 months before the end of the world. He can use his expertise and experience to obtain sufficient funds to support his doomsday preparations. 3 months was enough time for him to make all preparations. The most important thing right now is to kick Zhou Tu and her husband out. I absolutely cannot tolerate them continuing to live in my home. Thinking back to the days he spent with Zhou Tu in the past, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel angry and disgusted. The woman he had cared for 5 years was actually so dirty. Not only that, I have to sell the house. This house is full of bad luck. For Lin Feng, this home is no longer the warm haven where he and Zhou Tu live together. Rather, it is a place filled with betrayal and painful memories. He wanted to completely clear out this house, sell it, and completely get rid of the shadow of the past. Chapter 3. After get off work, Lin Feng returned home and behaved very naturally as usual. Honey, you're back. Are you tired today? Zhou Tu came up warmly with a sweet smile on her face and carefully placed the slippers at Lin Feng's feet. However, this seemingly loving act seemed so fake and disgusting in Lin Feng's eyes. For 5 years, the scene was the same every day, and anyone who saw it would think it was a harmonious family. Lin Feng handed the briefcase to Zhou Tu and said lightly. Well, I feel a little tired today. Maybe I didn't sleep well last night. These words made Zhou Tu's heart tighten suddenly. She couldn't help but start to wonder if Lin Feng had some hidden meaning in his words and said that on purpose. Has he discovered something? She didn't dare to ask Lin Feng directly. What if Lin Feng didn't know anything? Wouldn't she be exposing herself? In the following time, Zhou Tu was in a daze and burned her hands several times while cooking. She was filled with anxiety and uneasiness and was completely unable to concentrate. Lin Feng sat on the sofa, staring intently at the direction of the stock market. He glanced at Zhou Tu in the kitchen from time to time, with a hint of cunning in his eyes. He knew what Zhou Tu was worried about, but he didn't point it out. The good show is about to begin. It was late at night, and Zhou Tu carefully walked into Lin Feng's study with a glass of milk. She deliberately added a dose of sleeping pills to the milk. Hubby, go to bed after drinking the milk. Don't stay up too late. Your body won't be able to handle it. Lin Feng raised his head, took the cup of milk and said with a smile. Thank you, Tinger. I am indeed a little tired. I will go to rest after drinking this glass of milk. However, just as the milk was about to touch Lin Feng's lips, he suddenly stopped. Oh, by the way, go get the documents in my briefcase. The stock market has been fluctuating quite a bit recently, so I need to take a closer look. Zhou Tu was stunned. She originally thought that Lin Feng would drink the glass of milk without hesitation. However, now she had to follow Lin Feng's instructions and turn around to go to the living room to get the documents. When she returned to the study with the documents, she found the cup was empty. Zhou Tu felt flustered. She didn't know whether Lin Feng drank the glass of milk with sleeping pills in it. Hubby, you can't finish all the work in one day. You don't have to work so hard. I will feel sorry for you. Lin Feng put down the documents in his hand, yawned, and blinked continuously. Well, it seems that I didn't sleep well last night. I'm sleepy so early. Lin Feng stood up and stretched. He walked to Zhou Tu and gently put his arm around her waist. Come on, let's go to bed. Zhou Tu was caught off guard by Lin Feng's actions, but she still snuggled in his arms obediently. The two walked out of the study together and went to the bedroom. Not long after getting into bed, Lin Feng began to snore softly. But Zhou Tu still did not let her guard down. She waited for more than an hour and only felt relieved when she saw that Lin Feng did not show any abnormality. Zhou Tu stomped his hands and feet to the mirror and opened the secret room belonging to him and Zhang Jiang. As soon as I entered, I saw an angry expression on Zhang Jiang's face. Why did you come in so late today? Tell me, did you sleep with him again? Zhou Tu was trembling with fear. After all, she was Lin Feng's nominal wife. It must be to satisfy Lin Feng's physical needs, but every time he would be severely ravaged by Zhang Jiang. I didn't. I made sure he was asleep before I dared to come in. There was a tearful tone in Zhou Tu's voice, and it was obvious that she was resisting Zhang Jiang's abuse. But Zhang Jiang didn't care about Zhou Tu's feelings at all and tore off her nightgown. Damn it, you still dare to argue with me, believe it or not, I will drag you out and throw you in front of Lin Feng right now. Instead of enjoying your good life, you keep a gigolo at home. Just seek momentary happiness without thinking about the consequences. Zhou Tu regretted it. But what's the use? Too late. Crunch! The door of the secret room was suddenly pushed open, and the dazzling light instantly illuminated the dim room. Zhou Tu and Zhang Jiang raised their heads in horror, and what they saw was Lin Feng's smug smile. However, what made them even more frightened was that there were two uniformed policemen standing behind Lin Feng. Lin Feng pointed at Zhou Tu and Zhang Jiang, his face filled with a sense of revenge, and said to the police. Officer, hurry up and arrest them. My wife is engaging in prostitution at home. I think this is a sacrifice for the greater good, can you give me some bonus? Zhou Tu and Zhang Jiang were naked and were engaged in the most primitive exercise. They were shocked by the sudden scene and were at a loss for words. They frantically searched for clothes to try to cover up the embarrassment of their bodies. Until the police walked up to them and gave serious orders. According to the report, you are suspected of engaging in prostitution. Come with us now and go back for investigation. The two police officers were obviously well informed and did not show too much surprise at the scene before them. Zhang Jiang and Zhao Ting were completely different. They had never experienced such a situation before. I was so flustered that I could only put on my clothes as quickly as possible. Zhang Jiang tried to explain to the police officer. Officer, please listen to our explanation. Things are not what you think. We are. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by the police officer. Don't talk nonsense. If you have anything to say, let's talk about it back at the bureau. When Zhao Ting was escorted by the police past Lin Feng, she suddenly lost control and threw herself towards Lin Feng, her eyes blurred with tears. Hubby, please listen to my explanation. I was just confused for a moment. Please forgive me. I won't dare to do that again. Please believe me. However, Lin Feng was already prepared. He kept moving backwards to avoid Zhao Ting's touch. My lawyer will talk to you. Cold, ruthless, no room for mercy. As a witness, Lin Feng was also taken back to the police station. However, when Lin Feng arrived at the police station, his lawyer was already waiting at the door. This is the video of the whole thing. I asked her to leave the house with nothing. Is that okay? After saying that, Lin Feng put the USB flash drive in his hand into the lawyer's hands. Don't worry, as long as there is sufficient evidence, I will make sure she doesn't get a penny. In order to avoid imprisonment, Zhao Ting and Zhang Jiang had no choice but to tell the truth. After learning the whole story, the police also knew that Lin Feng did it on purpose. The police used their hands to catch the adulterous couple, and out of sympathy, they did not pursue the matter too much. When Zhao Ting walked out of the police station, Lin Feng's lawyer walked towards her. Hello, I am Mr. Lin Feng's lawyer, and he has entrusted all matters to me. I will file a lawsuit in court tomorrow. Because of your extramarital affair, my client has suffered great losses. You will bear all the consequences. Chapter 4. Zhao Ting stood at the door of the police station, her face pale and her body shaky. She looked at the indifferent lawyer in front of her, and an unprecedented fear surged in her heart. She knew she had done something wrong, but she never imagined the consequences would be so serious. What should I do? Zhao Ting asked in a trembling voice. The lawyer did not answer her question, but handed her a document. This is the divorce agreement, please sign it. Because you cheated on your wife, all the property will belong to Mr. Lin Feng, and you will have to leave the house with nothing. Zhao Ting stared at the contents of the agreement with wide eyes, and a feeling of despair surged in her heart. She knew she had no way out and could only do as her lawyer asked. She signed her name with trembling hands and handed the agreement to the lawyer. The lawyer took the agreement and turned away, leaving Zhao Ting standing alone at the door of the police station. Zhao Ting looked at the lawyer's departing back, her heart filled with regret and pain. Zhang Jiang looked at Zhao Ting with a look of pain and confusion. Ting Ting, how can you agree to a divorce so easily? Haven't we always relied on that BD Lin Feng to live this kind of life? What would we do without him? Zhao Ting closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and her heart was also filled with helplessness and despair. Of course she didn't want a divorce, but Lin Feng had already made preparations. Not only did he shoot the fatal video, he also found a lawyer in advance. If she didn't sign the divorce, Lin Feng would definitely sue her without hesitation. At that time, she will not only lose all her property, but will also be required to pay compensation for mental damages. She simply couldn't bear the consequences of that. Zhao Ting gently stroked Zhang Jiang's hand, tears glistening in her eyes. Brother Jiang, I know we are in a difficult situation now, but we have no other choice. Lin Feng already has all the evidence. If we don't do as he asks, the consequences will be disastrous. Although she said this, Zhao Ting had already begun to despise Zhang Jiang in her heart. He was a grown man, but he had no sense of responsibility and was completely incomparable to Lin Feng. But what else can we do? It's our own choice and we have to bear the consequences ourselves. With nowhere to go, Zhao Ting took Zhang Jiang back to her parents' home. At the beginning, in order to take care of her elderly parents, Zhao Ting deliberately chose her wedding house with Lin Feng in the same community. It was late at night and everyone was asleep. Zhao Ting took a deep breath and mustered up the courage to knock on her parents' door. Ding ding ding. After a while, the door slowly opened and Zhao Jiangguo appeared in pajamas with a surprised expression. He stared at the two of them standing outside the door. Before they could say anything, Zhao Jiangguo dragged them into the house, fearing that they would be seen by the neighbors. You, how dare you come out together? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by Lin Feng? Apparently, he and Zhao Ting's mother had known about their daughter's adultery with Zhang Jiang. I just didn't expect them to appear together so blatantly. Zhao Ting and Zhang Jiang lowered their heads and said nothing. Not good. Zhao Jiangguo's heart skipped a beat. After living for more than 60 years, he still had some vision. Tell me, has Lin Feng discovered your affairs? Zhao Ting bit her lip and squeezed out a word from between her teeth, Upon hearing this answer, Zhao Jiangguo was immediately furious. He raised his hand and slapped Zhao Ting in the face, cursing angrily. I told you to break up with him a long time ago, but you wouldn't listen. Now, how are we going to live without Lin Feng? Zhao Ting's mother Li Huan also rushed over after hearing the noise. When she saw her daughter standing with Zhang Jiang, she was so angry that she trembled all over. She pointed at Zhao Ting and cursed. Ust, I'll beat you to death. As he said this, he started punching and kicking Zhao Ting. They are all parasites who depend on Lin Feng for their livelihood and have long been accustomed to that kind of stable and comfortable life. Asking them to fend for themselves now would be even more painful than killing them. Zhao Ting and Zhang Jiang sat opposite Zhao Jiangguo and his wife, and a heavy atmosphere filled the room. After a night of anger and blame, the four people calmed down and began to face reality and discuss countermeasures. Zhao Jiangguo spoke first. Ting Ting, we can't live without Lin Feng. If you divorce him, it means you are destroying all our livelihoods. Li Huan also added. Ting Ting, we as parents don't want to interfere with your feelings, but the reality is that you have to consider the whole family. We have all seen how Lin Feng has treated you over the years, but he is sincere to you. As long as you are willing to look back, I believe he will still accept you. Zhang Jiang listened silently at the side, feeling mixed emotions. If Zhao Ting chooses to remarry Lin Feng, then she will definitely have to give up on him. So, the problem of Zhao Ting's family has been solved, what else should he do? Thump Zhang Jiang knelt in front of Zhao Ting and choked with sobs. Ting Ting, you can't just ignore me like this. Without you, I really don't know what to do. I can't even afford to eat. This scene caused the anger that had just subsided in Zhao Jiangguo's heart to burn again. He widened his eyes and pointed at Zhang Jiang and shouted angrily. You useless thing. If it weren't for you, how could my daughter divorce Lin Feng? You ruined the happiness of our entire family. Zhao Jiangguo was so angry that he was shaking all over. He suddenly grabbed the crystal ashtray on the coffee table. Zhao Ting and Li Huan screamed in fear when they saw the scene. Zhao Jiangguo roared. I'll beat you to death, you BD. Bang. The ashtray drew a parabola and hit Zhang Jiang on the head accurately. Blood gushed out instantly, Zhang Jiang screamed, and fell to the ground weakly. There was blood on his forehead and his consciousness gradually became blurred. Zhao Ting and her mother rushed forward in panic, trying to help Zhang Jiang up. Zhao Ting cried out. Dad, how could you do this? How could you hit someone? Zhao Jiangguo also realized that he had gone too far. He gasped and stood there at a loss. Dad, don't just stand there, take him to the hospital. Zhao Jiangguo said with a sad face. Send him to the hospital? With injuries like this, it will definitely cost a lot of money. We don't have any money. After saying that, Zhao Jiangguo covered his face with his hands and squatted on the ground. Zhao Ting covered the wound on Zhang Jiang's head with her hand and said anxiously. Then we can't just watch him die here. Murder is against the law. Li Huan said. You guys take him to the hospital first. I'll go find Lin Feng right away. No matter what, you can't let your father go to jail. After saying that, Li Huan hurriedly left the room. Zhao Ting didn't care about anything else. She picked up her phone and called the emergency number. However, when Li Huan arrived at Lin Feng's house, the house was empty. The property staff told her that Lin Feng had already sold the house. Chapter 5. Lin Feng was lying on a comfortable big bed in a 5-star hotel, and the person next to him was his secretary, Li Mei. After a night of hard fighting, Lin Feng did not feel tired at all, but instead felt refreshed. Lin Feng feels that his physical fitness has greatly improved after his rebirth. Is this also the benefit of rebirth? Ding dong. The message alert on my cell phone rang. It was a WeChat message from Zhao Ting. Zhao Ting had called him many times before, but he didn't answer. Lin Feng, I have realized my mistake, and I will never do it again. Can you please forgive me? My father accidentally beat Zhao Qiang to a disability last night. We sold everything in the house to barely raise enough money for his medical expenses. Now we have no money to compensate Zhang Jiang. In order to prevent my father from going to jail, we can only take care of Zhang Jiang for the rest of his life. Lin Feng, for the sake of our relationship as husband and wife, please help me. As long as you agree to remarry, you can compensate Zhang Jiang some money. I swear I will never have any contact with him again. Lin Feng almost laughed out loud after reading the message. He didn't expect there would be such an episode. Remarry? Let me take the money? I'm really dreaming. He turned his phone to silent mode and threw it aside. He turned around and hugged the naked Li Mei. 3 days passed in a flash. Lin Feng has already quit his job, and that little salary is just a drop in the bucket for him. With the tens of millions from the sale of the villa and his previous savings, Lin Feng multiplied the money several times in the stock market in just 3 days. There are already more than 300 million. I took a taxi and returned to the community where I used to live. Why? Because he wants to buy a new house here. Otherwise, how can I take revenge on Zhao Ting's family? When the end of the world comes, ice and snow will cover all roads, and activities in the same community can be carried out through underground garages. Lin Feng came to the real estate agency outside the community. Mr. Lin, you're here again? Are you looking to buy or sell a house today? The person who received him was the beautiful salesperson who had helped him sell a house a few days ago, Tang Weiwei. The last time Lin Feng came to sell the house, she was very proactive, but Lin Feng did not respond. Tang Weiwei was very happy to see Lin Feng again and behaved more attentively. Lin Feng nodded slightly and responded. Well, I'm here to buy a house this time, in this neighborhood. Are there any villas for sale? Tang Weiwei was even happier when she heard that Lin Feng wanted to buy a villa. The last time she helped Lin Feng sell a villa, she received a commission of 60,000 yuan. If Lin Feng can buy a villa he likes this time, her commission will definitely not be less than last time. Enthusiastically took Lin Feng to the reception room. Mr. Lin, please wait a moment. I will help you check now. Lin Feng drank the coffee that Tang Weiwei prepared for him, his eyes constantly scanning Tang Weiwei. Although her figure is not as plump as Li Mi's, she has a well-proportioned figure, and every part of her body is just right. Tang Weiwei felt Lin Feng's gaze, but she didn't care. Instead, she felt happy. This was exactly what she wanted. Mr. Lin, after checking, we found that only building number 1 in our community has not been sold yet, but its price is indeed a bit high. Tang Weiwei spoke cautiously, feeling a little scared. Since the construction of this community, Villa number 1 has been on sale. Although many people came to visit, they eventually gave up the idea of a euro buying because the price was too high. Lin Feng took the tablet computer handed over by Tang Weiwei and glanced at the detailed information of the villa. The total area is 1,200 square meters, divided into 1 underground floor and 3 above ground floors. The basement floor is directly connected to the community's underground parking lot, which is crucial for Lin Feng. The price is high? It doesn't matter. When the end of the world comes, money will be like waste paper, no one will want it even if you give it away for free. Miss Tang, I want this villa. When Tang Weiwei heard this, she was stunned. She didn't expect Lin Feng to make such a decisive decision. After all, this villa is worth 80 million. Okay, Mr. Lin, I will handle the relevant procedures for you immediately. Tang Weiwei quickly came to her senses and responded enthusiastically. She knew that this transaction would not only make her commission much more generous, what's more important is that I can have more opportunities to interact with Lin Feng. Since Lin Feng paid in full, the house buying process went exceptionally smoothly. In less than an hour, Lin Feng bought a villa worth 80 million yuan. Not only was Tang Weiwei looking at him with ambiguous eyes. Even the sales manager who was in his 40s kept winking at Lin Feng. Tang Weiwei walked Lin Feng out the door. Mr. Lin, if you need any help, you can contact me at any time. Don't be polite to me. Tang Weiwei's body was pressed tightly against Lin Feng, and her alluring body fragrance made Lin Feng feel relaxed and happy. Really? I need Miss Tang's help with something right now. Tang was stunned. Is this going to start? Rich people are so efficient. Okay, Mr. Lin, if you have anything to say, just tell me. Lin Feng smiled. Well, I need to buy some household items, but I know nothing about them. I wonder if Miss Tang has time to go shopping with me. How could Tang Weiwei miss such a good opportunity? She agreed immediately. No problem. I can't say I'm an expert in this area, but I know a lot. I'm going to ask the manager for leave. Please wait for me in the car. When Lin Feng and Tang Weiwei returned to the community pushing 2 carts full of household items, they immediately attracted the attention of many neighbors. After all, Lin Feng has lived here for 5 years, and many people know him. Hey, Xylin, what are you doing? You bought so many things. Yes, these are all high-end beddings. Could it be that he has found a new love? Ha ha ha, you're really a troublemaker. If old Zhao hears this, he'll fight you to the death. Lin Feng ignored the gossip of his neighbors. Lin Feng's experiences in his previous life made him deeply realize the wickedness of human nature. In this life, he will no longer show mercy to anyone. When the end of the world comes, all these neighbors will become victims of his way of killing time. However, the direction in which Lin Feng and Tang Weiwei were heading also attracted the attention of the neighbors. That's not right. Doesn't he live in a townhouse? Why did he go to Villa No 1? Yes, did you go to that woman's house? Look, I told you, this guy must have a new love. Oh no, I have to go and inform old Zhao. There was even someone following Lin Feng and Tang Weiwei until they entered Villa number 1. Afterwards, various rumors quickly spread in the community. Chapter 6. What? Li Huan took the phone handed to her by Zhao Jiangguo and saw the photo at a glance. In the photo, Lin Feng and Tang Weiwei were walking into Villa number 1 together, and the two looked particularly close. This is impossible. She just heard yesterday that Lin Feng and her daughter were divorced, and today news came out that he was with another woman. She couldn't accept this. If Lin Feng really found another woman, Zhao Ting would not be able to remarry Lin Feng. Old Zhao, what do you think we should do? How could Lin Feng do this to our family? Zhao Jiangguo was silent for a while before he spoke slowly. We have to hurry up, call Ting Ting out quickly, let's go find Lin Feng and ask him to drive that vixen out. Villa number 1 belongs to us. When Zhao Ting saw the photo in Zhao Jiangguo's hand, she suddenly felt a sense of powerlessness. Tang Weiwei in that photo made her feel ashamed of herself in terms of both figure and appearance. She knew clearly that she had no advantages that could make Lin Feng give up Tang Weiwei and choose her. Zhao Ting felt mixed emotions, she understood her situation. Lin Feng is their family's only lifeline and their only hope to escape from their predicament. If Lin Feng doesn't help them, they will have to take care of that waste Zhang Jiang for the rest of their lives. Zhao Ting followed Zhao Jiangguo and Li Huan and walked towards Villa number 1. Hey, isn't this Lao Zhao? Congratulations. You found a good son-in-law who bought the best building in our community. Yes. Mr. Zhao is really lucky. When he moves, he must inform us. Yes, but you have to be more careful, Lao Zhao. Men, once they have money, can easily turn bad. Along the way, neighbors greeted them from time to time, but every word was full of sarcasm and ridicule. Zhao Jiangguo and the other two said nothing. To them, these words were like sharp knives, piercing their hearts. The neighbors also noticed that the 3 men looked strange, and a few curious people slowly followed them, ready to watch the show. Bang, bang, Bang! The sudden knock on the door broke the warm dinner atmosphere that Lin Feng and Tang Weiwei were enjoying. Lin Feng frowned slightly, he put down the wine glass in his hand, he stood up, already guessing who the uninvited guest outside the door was. It seems that the news that Tang Weiwei and I went home together has reached the ears of Zhao Ting's family. Lin Feng curled up his lips into a sneer, he did it on purpose. What he wanted was to make Zhao Ting's family feel envious, jealous, and regretful. Let them know how precious what they have lost is. He straightened his suit, took a deep breath, and then slowly walked towards the gate of the villa. When he opened the door, Zhao Jiangguo was standing outside with a livid face, staring at him angrily. Let's go in first. Zhao Jiangguo said stiffly that he certainly didn't want to be laughed at by his neighbors. After all, in their eyes, Lin Feng has always been their family's perfect son-in-law. However, Lin Feng stood still, making it impossible for him to move forward. Let's just say it here. I don't think there's anything we need to avoid talking about with our neighbors. Zhao Jiangguo was angered by Lin Feng's attitude. He widened his eyes and glared at Lin Feng. What do you mean? Do you want us to have a loud argument here and let everyone know about our family's scandal? Lin Feng was unmoved, he just smiled faintly. You are wrong. This is not a scandal, but the truth. I believe the neighbors also want to know the truth of the matter. Besides, I don't think there is anything to argue about between us. You have lost the qualifications to negotiate with me. Zhao Jiangguo's face turned red with anger at Lin Feng's words, but he couldn't refute it. He no longer cared about saving face and spoke in public. Okay, since you said so, let's make it clear here. We hope that you can remarry Ting Ting and continue to support our family. Zhao Jiangguo spoke with confidence. He still thought that Lin Feng was the good son-in-law who let him do whatever he wanted. This news was like a bombshell, instantly exploding among the crowd and causing an uproar. Everyone immediately started talking and whispering to each other, as if this was a carefully choreographed drama and they were the audience. Divorced? Great, my daughter is still single. If she marries Lin Feng, won't the whole family be able to move into a big villa? Some of the middle-aged women and uncles stared at Lin Feng with burning eyes. It was as if he was looking at a piece of fat meat, thinking about his own little plans in his mind. Lin Feng stood in the crowd, his face becoming increasingly gloomy as he faced the Zhao family's shameless behavior. He really didn't expect that the Zhao family would be so shameless that they dared to make such a ridiculous request in such an occasion. He sneered and mercilessly exposed the ugly face of the Zhao family. I have raised your family for 5 years, you eat my food and use my things. In the past 5 years, has your family earned a penny? And then? What did you give me? Zhao Ting cheated on her husband and kept a man at home for 5 years. Now you have the nerve to ask me to remarry her and continue to support you. Do you think I'm an idiot? As soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, the scene fell into silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on Zhao Ting. Her face turned extremely pale in an instant, as if all the blood had been drained from her. This plot is too ridiculous, it seems like it only appears in TV dramas. It actually happened in reality, and everyone was shocked and unbelievable. Lin Feng's words were like a sharp knife, piercing directly into the hearts of the Zhao family. I didn't expect Lin Feng would not care about his face and expose the ugly thing in public. Their faces turned extremely ugly, as if they had been slapped loudly in the face in public. Zhao Ting suddenly pushed away Zhao Jiangguo who was standing in front of her, and knelt down in front of Lin Feng. She begged with tears in her voice. Lin Feng, please forgive me this time. I will never dare to do it again. Without you, our family can't survive. Seeing that a tough attitude did not work, Li Huan also changed her strategy. She knelt on the ground with Zhao Ting and begged in tears. Yes, Lin Feng, your father has beaten Zhang Jiang to a disability in order to vent his anger on you. Just forgive Ting Ting. If you don't take the money, we will have to support that loser for the rest of our lives. You have been in love with Ting Ting for so many years, you don't want to see her suffer. Faced with this sudden change, Lin Feng did not show any surprise. Chapter 7. He calmly took a step back and waved behind him. Tang Weiwei immediately walked to Lin Feng with graceful steps. Lin Feng gently put his arm around Tang Weiwei's waist, with obvious sarcasm in his voice. How ridiculous. You actually want me to pay for it. You think too highly of yourself. Open your eyes and look, is the woman next to me comparable to you, Zhao Ting? Tang Weiwei was very cooperative and snuggled up to Lin Feng, like a docile kitten. Zhao Ting looked at the scene in front of her and all her hope was shattered. She collapsed on the ground powerlessly. She knew that Lin Feng was right. She had lost the qualifications to ask Lin Feng to do anything. However, Zhao Jiangguo became furious. He waved his fist and shouted angrily. Don't waste your time talking to him. Let's go and sue him. We'll say, he abandoned his wife and kept a mistress outside. However, as soon as he finished speaking, everyone around him looked at him as if he were an idiot. They secretly shook their heads in their hearts and felt great contempt for Zhao Jiangguo's behavior. Your daughter cheated on her first, and now that they're divorced, you're still suing her. This is simply shameless. Faced with Zhao Jiangguo's unreasonable threat, Lin Feng just smiled coldly. This is just the beginning, the best is yet to come. After saying that, Lin Feng hugged Tang Weiwei and walked into the villa. When Zhao Jiangguo heard Lin Feng's words, his face instantly turned ugly. He widened his eyes and asked angrily. What? What do you mean? Lin Feng did not stop, but looked back at Zhao Jiangguo with a sneer on his face. You'll soon find out. Zhao Jiangguo was completely enraged by Lin Feng's attitude. Don't think you are great just because you are rich. I will make you regret it. Seeing that Lin Feng had returned to the villa, Li Huan immediately spoke to Zhao Jiangguo. Old man, let's go. Don't embarrass yourself here. Zhao Jiangguo shook off Li Huan's hand and said angrily. Damn it, which is more important, your face or your life? Ting Ting, get plastic surgery right now, make your breasts and butt bigger than that vixen's, and get Lin Feng back to me. Zhao Jiangguo's words shocked and unbelievable everyone present. His anger and unwillingness had reached a point of near madness, and he had completely lost his mind. However, his behavior would only make his family more embarrassed in front of everyone. Zhao Ting lowered her head silently. Plastic surgery? I want to, but you need money to do that. The next day, after Lin Feng sent Tang Weiwei away, he drove his car to the famous Jiangsheng Security Company in Haining City. He chose this place because in his past work, he has hired bodyguards from Jiangsheng Security for the chairman many times and has high recognition for their service and capabilities. Jiangsheng Security Company not only focuses on providing bodyguard services, it is also involved in many security business areas, such as modification of vehicles, houses, ships, etc., to provide customers with all-round security protection. Lin Feng was familiar with the place. The front desk staff recognized him at a glance and enthusiastically took him to the general manager's office. Ahaha, what brings General Manager Lin here today? As soon as he saw Lin Feng, General Manager Gao Gang immediately stood up and greeted him warmly. Lin Feng laughed and waved his hand. Haha, Mr. Gao, please stop making fun of me. I have already resigned and am now just an idle employee. Hearing this, Gao Gang showed a puzzled expression and asked with concern, What's going on? Did something happen? Lin Feng waved his hand and his expression became serious. Let's not talk about it. I came to see Mr. Gao today because I have something important to trouble you with. Gao Gang responded immediately. Well, it's no trouble at all. If you have anything to say, just tell me. Lin Feng took a sip of tea and spoke slowly. Look, I need you to build me a safe house. It should be the highest grade, which can withstand any natural disaster. Hearing this, Gao Gang's eyes suddenly became serious. Although to outsiders, this may seem like a joke, because no one believes in the so-called end of the world. But for security industry experts like him, this is a serious need. In this world, the richest and most powerful people are often the ones who fear death the most. It is not uncommon for them to be willing to spend huge sums of money to ensure their safety. Some people may be truly worried about encountering a large-scale natural disaster, while others may want to give themselves a greater sense of security because they have made too many enemies in their daily lives. Therefore, Jiangsheng Security Company launched the Doomsday Safe House business to meet this market demand. But no one expected Lin Feng to have such a need. A top-level safe house is worth no less than the same weight of $100 bills. Thinking of this, Gao Gang showed an embarrassed expression and said, Brother, I don't mean to look down on you. The highest level safe house will cost at least a fortune. I don't know if you... Lin Feng knew what Gao Gang was worried about and replied immediately. Don't worry, Mr. Gao. Money is not a problem, but the construction period must be guaranteed. Gao Gang knew that Lin Feng was not the kind of person who spoke without thinking. Since he said there was no problem, there must be no problem. Asked. How long is your deadline? Lin Feng stretched out 2 fingers and said. 2 months. Although there are still 3 months until the end of the world, in order to prevent emergencies, Lin Feng has to shorten the time to build the safe house. His Gao Gang took a deep breath, thought for a moment and said. 2 months is a bit tight, but, since you asked, I will definitely complete the task within 2 months. Afterwards, Gao Gang enthusiastically asked his assistant to bring a tablet computer. Sitting side by side with Lin Feng, he began to carefully select every material needed for the safe house. Lin Feng showed extremely high requirements in the selection of materials for walls, ceilings, and floors. It was decided to use a special alloy with a thickness of 30 centimeters. This alloy material not only has extraordinary strength, but also its lightness is amazing. This aviation-grade special alloy weighs only 1/3 of traditional steel, but is 10 times stronger than fine steel. Using it to build a safe house can not only perfectly integrate into the villa structure, but also eliminate the need to worry about load-bearing issues. Windows are an important part of a safe house, and their material selection cannot be ignored. We chose the most advanced bulletproof glass in the world. This glass is resistant to multiple caliber bullets and blast impacts, providing you with unbreakable protection even in the harshest environments. Chapter 8. In addition to physical protection, Lin Feng also pays special attention to the comfort of the living environment. Therefore, when choosing the ventilation system, advanced air filtration devices were installed. This filtration system can effectively filter out harmful substances in the air, ensuring that you can breathe fresh and pure air at any time. Considering the heating problem in the doomsday period, Lin Feng proposed installing a fireplace in the safe house. A fireplace not only provides warmth, but also adds a cozy atmosphere to the room. We will choose an efficient and environmentally friendly fireplace to ensure a comfortable living environment in any weather. In order to fully monitor the situation inside and outside the safe house, they also chose an advanced monitoring system. This system is highly intelligent and can capture and analyze any abnormal dynamics in real time to ensure your safety. Finally, they were equally uncompromising in the choice of materials for the doors. We selected a security door made of the same material as the bank vault. This door is strong enough to withstand the impact of small bombs and provides a solid line of defense for the safe house. The issue of the safe house has always weighed on Lin Feng's mind like a huge rock. Now that it has finally been implemented, he feels that the burden on his shoulders has been lightened a lot. With this solid safe haven, he at least has more confidence when facing unknown risks. After saying goodbye to Gao Gang, Lin Feng seemed particularly relaxed and drove slowly back to his community. As soon as he stopped the car, Lin Feng noticed a striking scene. A woman with perfect curves is bending over to check the condition of a Porsche. Her long hair was casually draped over her shoulders, swaying gently with her movements. The round and perky buttocks are fully displayed under the outline of the tights, exuding an irresistible charm. Who is this? The neighbor next door. Lin Feng was guessing secretly in his heart, and his eyes were involuntarily attracted. It is really a pleasure to have such a beautiful female neighbor. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a few more glances and admired it in his heart. Just as Lin Feng was intoxicated by the beautiful scenery, the woman seemed to notice his gaze and slowly turned around. Lin Feng quickly withdrew his gaze, smiled awkwardly, and walked towards home. However, just as he was about to turn around and leave, the woman called him. Hello, sir, can I trouble you to do me a favor? Lin Feng turned around, pointed at his nose and asked in confusion. Are you talking to me? The woman nodded and gave an apologetic smile. Only then did Lin Feng see her appearance and figure clearly. She had the typical royal sister style, with a heroic air between her brows, which was very seductive. The woman introduced herself. Her name was Sun Ziyi and she lived in Villa No. 2 next to Lin Feng. Her tire suddenly became flat, and she was in a hurry to go to the hospital for surgery, so she wanted Lin Feng to help her change the tire. After understanding what happened, Lin Feng walked to the front of the car to check the situation. Then he shook his head helplessly. Dr. Sun, it's not that I don't want to help you, but your car doesn't have a spare tire. You can only call for help. Upon hearing this, Sun Ziyi showed an anxious look on her face. What can I do? The patient is still in the operating room waiting for me to operate on him. Lin Feng looked at Sun Ziyi's anxious expression and thought for a moment. Well, how about this, you drive my car, I don't have anything important to do anyway. Hearing this, Sun Ziyi looked at Lin Feng gratefully. Thank you so much, I will be back as soon as possible. Lin Feng didn't take this little thing to heart at all. It was just a car. Given his current situation, he can buy a new one at any time. Night. Since his car was driven to the hospital by Sun Ziyi, Lin Feng could only make an appointment with Li Mei to have dinner at the newly opened Thai restaurant at the entrance of the community. Lin Feng was quite satisfied with his former female secretary. Li Mei is not only tall and well-proportioned, but also has an impeccable appearance. What's even more rare is that her performance in bed always makes Lin Feng feel satisfied. The two walked into the restaurant side by side, and suddenly there were footsteps at the door. Looking up, I saw 5 or 6 women walking towards me, one of them was Tang Weiwei. Lin Feng frowned slightly, but soon regained his composure. After experiencing the baptism of the end of the world, his heart had already become as cold as steel. In this world, women are just a brief pleasure and a plaything for him. He knows the complexity of human nature. Brothers can kill each other for a pack of instant noodles. Lovers can betray each other for a piece of bread. Feelings? In Lin Feng's opinion, they are nothing but illusory things that cannot be exchanged for real food and survival. Although he is an orphan, he understands that in this world, only parental love is selfless and unrequited. Tang Weiwei also inadvertently saw Lin Feng and Li Mei beside him. She noticed that Li Mei had a hot body and outstanding temperament. However, Tang Weiwei did not show any dissatisfaction or jealousy. Mr. Lin, is this your girlfriend? She is so beautiful. Lin Feng asked, feeling embarrassed. She is my secretary, Li Mei. We were just planning to have something to eat. Have you just finished eating? Would you like to have a couple more drinks? After hearing this, Tang Weiwei responded immediately. Okay, but I hope your secretary won't be angry. She deliberately emphasized the word secretary. Li Mei is not a woman without any scheming. She knew her position and Lin Feng's needs. Between money and status, she values a euro the former more. So when Tang Weiwei mentioned secretary, she did not flinch or feel uneasy. On the contrary, she hugged Lin Feng's arms tightly. I don't care, as long as it can make Mr. Lin happy. Afterwards, Tang Weiwei said a few words to the people around her, and then followed Lin Feng and Li Mei into the box. As the saying goes, there is no coincidence in the world. At this time, Zhou Tu was complaining to her best friend in this restaurant. Hey, isn't that your ex-husband Lin Feng? Who are those 2 women beside him? Sun Yu is a complete green TBCH, and her looks are obviously much better than Zhou Tu. Living in the same residential complex as Zhou Tu, I was particularly shocked when I learned about what happened to Zhou Tu. At first she thought it was just a rumor among the neighbors, but after asking Zhou Tu out, she was sure that it was true. She didn't expect that Zhou Tu, who seemed to be a well-behaved person and with whom she had been together for more than 10 years, would be even crazier than her. It is true that you can judge a person by his appearance but not by his heart. Logically speaking, Lin Feng's conditions were already excellent, and she had secretly seduced Lin Feng many times. But Lin Feng ignored her and didn't respond at all. Chapter 9. Following Sun Yu's gaze, Zhou Tu also saw Lin Feng and the other 2. She didn't expect that the honest and upright Lin Feng would change so much. There are all kinds of beauties surrounding him, and each one has a hotter figure than the other. This also reminded Zhou Tu of the time when Zhao Jiangguo asked her to have plastic surgery. Zhou Tu looked down at her flat chest. A strong sense of inferiority welled up in my heart. She asked Sun Yu. Yu, do you know where I can get plastic surgery? Sun Yu couldn't help feeling a little surprised when he heard this question. She knew that Zhou Tu felt inferior because of the beauties around Lin Feng and wanted to change herself through plastic surgery. But Sun Yu will not let Zhou Tu get her wish. She said it lightly. Ting Ting, you don't want to have plastic surgery, do you? You have to think it through. Plastic surgery is not a joke. Zhou Tu bit her lip, and a hint of determination flashed in her eyes. I've thought it through, Yu. Look at the women around Lin Feng, they are all curvaceous. I want Lin Feng to remarry me, so I have to change. Sun Yu sneered even more in his heart. He would never let Lin Feng and Zhou Tu remarry. So she thought about it and spoke. I do know a plastic surgeon, but his price is a bit high. Now that you've left Lin Feng, I'm afraid you can't afford the cost of plastic surgery. When Zhou Tu heard this, a hint of hesitation flashed in her eyes. But she quickly hardened her heart and said, if it doesn't work out, I'll mortgage my parents' house. As long as I can become beautiful and make Lin Feng fall in love with me again, I am willing to do anything. Sun Yu's eyes turned and he already had a plan in mind. Okay, then call me when you raise the money and I'll take you there. Zhou Tu looked at Sun Yu's expression, which seemed to show that everything was under control, and she couldn't help feeling a little nervous. But she had made up her mind to give it a try anyway. So she nodded to show her agreement. Sun Yu took Zhou Tu's hand, with a sly look in his eyes. Ting Ting, let's go over and say hello to Lin Feng. Zhou Tu showed a look of embarrassment. After seeing the beauties around Lin Feng, he really didn't have the courage to face Lin Feng at this moment. She was worried that her current appearance would make Lin Feng look down on her even more. This is not good. After all, we are divorced. I don't. However, Sun Yu interrupted her before she could finish. What are you afraid of? If we can't be husband and wife, we can still be friends. Let's test Lin Feng and see if he wants to remarry you. After saying that, Sun Yu pulled Zhou Tu towards the box where Lin Feng and the other two were. Zhou Tu had no choice but to let Sun Yu pull her. She felt mixed emotions, both anticipation and fear. She also wanted to know whether Lin Feng was angry and refused to remarry her, or whether he had completely given up on her. The two walked to the door of the box. Sun Yu took a deep breath, and then pushed the door open. Lin Feng and the other two were chatting and laughing, but when they saw Zhou Tu and Sun Yu standing at the door, they were stunned. Lin Feng's gaze stayed on Zhou Tu for a moment, then turned to Sun Yu. Why are you here? Sun Yu smiled. She pulled Zhou Tu to Lin Feng and said. We're eating here too. When we saw you come in, we came over to say hello. Lin Feng responded with a cold face. Go out, don't disturb me while I'm eating here, I don't want to see her. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Tu's face changed. She could feel Lin Feng's indifference and disgust towards her, which made her feel very angry and lost. She glanced at Tang Weiwei and Li Miai, especially after seeing their plump figures. The jealousy and anger in her heart were hard to suppress, and she questioned angrily. Lin Feng, do you only like women with big breasts and big butts now? Lin Feng sneered and said directly. That's right, the facts are there. When Zhou Tu heard this, her anger and humiliation became even stronger. Okay, wait, I'll surprise you. After saying that, she turned around and walked out of the box angrily. When Sun Yu saw the scene, he didn't feel much sympathy. She knew her chance had come, so she sat down shamelessly. She faced Lin Feng, deliberately puffed out her chest, and then spoke coquettishly. Now that the person you hate is gone, stop looking so cold. Lin Feng looked at Sun Yu's coquettish look and knew what her purpose was. Lin Feng knows Sun Yu quite well. He changes men faster than he changes clothes. Although she was indeed pretty, in Lin Feng's eyes, such a woman was dirty and he would never touch her. However, Lin Feng did not let Sun Yu leave immediately. An idea flashed through his mind, maybe he could get some information about Zhou Tu's family from Sun Yu. This way, if he wants to take revenge on Zhou Tu's family in the future, he will have more cards to use. So, Lin Feng decided to whet Sun Yu's appetite. Sun Yu, look, it's really inconvenient for me today. How about I ask you out alone some other time? Sun Yu didn't expect things to go so smoothly. She just wanted to give it a try to see if she could get close to Lin Feng. Unexpectedly, Lin Feng actually took the initiative to ask her out alone. She felt secretly delighted in her heart, but on the surface she tried to remain calm and responded tactfully. You said you were not allowed to stand me up. I won't bother you today. After Sun Yu finished speaking, he stood up and left the box. Her heart was full of anticipation as she fantasized about being alone with Lin Feng. However, she did not realize that all this was just Lin Feng's strategy. After Sun Yu left the box with satisfaction, what was left was the subtle atmosphere between Lin Feng, Tang Weiwei, and Li Miai. Li Miai pouted and spoke with a hint of jealousy in her tone. Boss Lin, you don't fall in love with every girl you meet, do you? Upon hearing this, Tang Weiwei immediately agreed. That's right, that's right. We're still sitting here, and you're already dating other women. Lin Feng looked at the reactions of the two and knew in his heart that they were just testing him and testing each other's position in his heart. He smiled slightly, a hint of teasing flashed in his eyes, and said. Whether I look for another woman or not is not up to me. It depends on your performance. Tang Weiwei and Li Miai looked at each other. They read the same message from each other's eyes, a lone dragon and two phoenixes. After eating and drinking, Lin Feng took the two women to the hotel and had a thrilling S*X all night long. The two women also got the generous rewards as they wished. Why didn't he go home? Because Lin Feng had a new target, Sun Ziyi. A woman like her can definitely not be won over by money. So Lin Feng didn't want her to see the scene of him being surrounded by beautiful women. Chapter 10. The next day. When Lin Feng returned to the community, he saw Sun Ziyi from afar wearing a flawless white dress. Standing quietly at the door of his villa, looking inside. Lin Feng was slightly stunned, then walked forward and said with a smile. Dr. Sun, you came to see me so early, what's the matter? Sun Ziyi heard the voice and turned around immediately. She saw Lin Feng standing in front of her with a look of surprise on her face. She thought Lin Feng was still sleeping, so she didn't dare to disturb him, but she didn't expect him to come back so early. She smiled awkwardly and said. Mr. Lin, you went out so early. I thought you were sleeping, so I didn't dare to ring the doorbell. Lin Feng smiled. It's okay. I went out for morning exercise and just came back. You came to see me so early. Is there something urgent? After hearing what Lin Feng said, Sun Ziyi immediately took out the car keys from her handbag and handed them to him. Mr. Lin, my car has been repaired. Thank you so much. If you hadn't lent me your car in time, allowing me to get to the hospital in time, the operation yesterday might not have been able to go smoothly. The operation yesterday is still vivid in her mind. Lin Feng took the car keys and said with a smile. Dr. Sun, you are too polite. It's just a small matter. We are all neighbors, and we should help each other. The two stood at the door of the villa and chatted for a while, then Sun Ziyi thanked him and left. After entering the room, Lin Feng turned on the computer with ease and quickly locked his eyes on the stock chart. Compared with his previous life, there was no difference in the stock market trends in this life. Everything was just as he remembered. His assets have accumulated to an astonishing 500 million, which is enough for him to stock up on the necessary supplies. However, Lin Feng was not satisfied with this. He knows that in this world full of uncertainty, being prepared is the most important thing. So, he decided to take out only 200 million to buy supplies. The remaining 300 million will continue to be invested in the stock market in case of emergency. Lin Feng specially borrowed a spacious warehouse from the community security guard. Next, he began a crazy shopping trip. Food, drinking water, wood, coal, medicine, entertainment facilities, fitness equipment, he bought almost everything he might need. However, he also found that key supplies such as prescription drugs, firearms, and fuel were almost impossible to buy on the market. This made him frown, but he did not give up. As the supplies arrived one after another, Lin Feng began to get busy. He bought a large number of shelves and arranged the supplies in the space. And clearly labeled for easy searching and management in the future. This morning. Ding ling ling when he heard the doorbell ring, Lin Feng knew that a takeaway must have arrived. Walked to the door and opened it. However, the scene before him surprised him a little. I saw the delivery man and Aunt Zhao from the community standing at the door, and there seemed to be an argument between the two. Lin Feng took a closer look and found that it was Aunt Zhao's grandson who was holding onto the fast food in the delivery man's hand. What are you doing? This is not your takeaway, let it go. The delivery man's face turned red with anxiety. He didn't dare to pull hard for fear of hurting the child. However, Aunt Zhao unreasonably pulled the delivery man's hand away and started swearing at him. You stinky delivery man, this is not yours, why are you trying to steal it? Believe it or not, I will file a complaint against you. Lin Feng saw the whole scene, but he was not angry. He felt that this little incident was not worth getting angry about. He walked up to the delivery man and said. Forget it, it's just a takeaway, just treat it as feeding the dog. The delivery man looked at Lin Feng in astonishment, as if he didn't expect him to say that. Aunt Zhao immediately pointed the gun at Lin Feng and roared. What did you say? You actually called my grandson a dog. Do you think being rich is great? Lin Feng sneered and responded. Only a mad dog would snatch food everywhere. Aren't you just like a mad dog? His words left Aunt Zhao speechless, and the neighbors around her began to whisper. However, Aunt Zhao was still unwilling to give in and kept cursing at the door, her voice getting louder and louder. Lin Feng turned a deaf ear to it, as if all this had nothing to do with him. He turned back into the villa and closed the door. After returning to the villa, Lin Feng opened the food delivery platform and continued to order food. He ordered a lot of fried chicken, grilled skewers, and other delicacies, all of which children like to eat. However, this time he specifically reminded the merchants. It's super spicy, make it even spicier. As Lin Feng expected, in the evening, Aunt Zhao brought her grandson and stole all the takeaways that Lin Feng had specially left at the door. After returning home, Aunt Zhao couldn't wait to tear open the package of a takeaway. She handed the fragrant fried chicken to her grandson Xiao Kong. Come on, Xiao Kong, eat quickly, this fried chicken is your favorite. Xiao Kong took the fried chicken, his eyes sparkling with excitement. He was already so hungry that his stomach growled. I couldn't wait to gobble it up. Aunt Zhao lives alone with her grandson. Her family is not well off, and she rarely buys snacks for Xiao Kong. But every time he saw other people's takeout in the neighborhood, he would steal it back for Xiao Kong. Over time, Xiao Kong got used to this lifestyle of getting something for nothing, and developed a certain adaptability to spicy food. After a while, Xiao Kong ate a whole fried chicken. He wiped his mouth contentedly, then suddenly frowned. Shaha grandma, it's so spicy. The spicy taste began to spread in his mouth, making him feel uncomfortable. Seeing this, Aunt Zhao quickly brought a glass of water to Xiao Cong. It's okay, just drink some water. Here, there are some skewers, eat more, don't waste them. After Xiao Kong drank the water, the spiciness eased a little, and he continued to eat the skewers. Although it was a bit spicy, he was reluctant to waste this rare delicacy. However, as time went on, the spicy taste began to spread in his stomach and he felt a sharp pain. Grandma, my stomach hurts so much. Xiao Kong suddenly screamed, covered his stomach and rolled on the ground in pain. Aunt Zhao was frightened and at a loss when she saw her grandson in so much pain. She hurriedly hugged Xiao Kong and gave him a lot of water to drink, but it did not relieve the condition, but made it worse. In desperation, Aunt Zhao had to send Xiao Kong to the hospital. After a whole night of tossing and turning, Xiao Kong's condition was finally under control. He lay quietly on the hospital bed. Although his face was still pale, he no longer felt the pain he had felt before. Chapter 11. Seeing Xiaokong's face gradually calming down, Aunt Zhao finally felt relieved. However, when she picked up the medical bill in her hand, her mood became heavy again. 5,000 yuan, how many mineral water bottles do I have to pick up to earn it back? Bang, bang, bang. Aunt Zhao's angry shouts were like a violent storm, mercilessly hitting Lin Feng's door. Get out of here, you little BD, get out of here quickly. Lin Feng was still sleeping when he was awakened by the sudden BG on the door and shouting. He knew that it must be Aunt Zhao's grandson who ate the takeaway food with added ingredients. This morning, Aunt Zhao brought Xiao Kong home from the hospital. She originally wanted to find some non-spicy food for Xiao Kong from the takeaway food she stole from Lin Feng. However, when she opened all the takeout, she found that every food was extremely spicy. Aunt Zhao's face turned pale in an instant, and she realized that the conflict between her and Lin Feng yesterday might not be accidental. This must be because Lin Feng ordered extra spicy food on purpose to take revenge on her. So, she brought Xiao Kong to Lin Feng's door and started BG on it and yelling. Lin Feng opened the door slowly and leisurely, with an indifferent attitude. He glanced at Aunt Zhao standing outside the gate and saw that she had a cold face and eyes as sharp as knives. This scene happened to be captured by many neighbors who were doing morning exercises, and they all stopped to watch. Seeing Lin Feng's nonchalant expression, Aunt Zhao's anger erupted like a volcano. You little BD, what are you thinking? You even specially ordered so much spicy takeout for Xiao Kong. Do you know that Xiao Kong spent the whole night in the hospital? You, the culprit, must compensate me for my medical expenses and mental damages. Aunt Zhao's words were full of anger and accusations, but Lin Feng was not moved at all. He scratched his head in puzzlement and said innocently. I ordered takeout for your grandson? Are you kidding me? Do I have money and nowhere to spend it? Aunt Zhao was so angry at Lin Feng's words that she was shaking all over. She originally wanted to accuse Lin Feng of deliberately ordering spicy food to retaliate against her. But she couldn't tell everyone in public that she had stolen the takeout. She had no choice but to continue to accuse Lin Feng unreasonably. You are still making excuses here. I don't care, you have to pay me compensation. My grandson was sent to the hospital because he ate the takeaway you ordered. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel amused when he saw Aunt Zhao acting unreasonable. He patted his head as if suddenly realizing something and said. Oh, I see. I was wondering why the takeaway I ordered last night was gone. Turns out you stole it and gave it to your grandson. I've never seen someone as shameless as you. Stealing other people's things and asking them to pay for it. Are you crazy? Lin Feng's words left Aunt Zhao speechless. She originally wanted to blame Lin Feng for ordering spicy food and harming Xiao Kong, but Lin Feng turned around and accused her of stealing the takeaway. In public, Aunt Zhao could not defend herself and could only glare at Lin Feng angrily. The neighbors who were watching were whispering, expressing their dissatisfaction and condemnation of Aunt Zhao's behavior. My takeaways are often lost. It turns out that they are stolen by Aunt Zhao. At her age, she is living a dog's life. Oh. Don't mention it. Last time I caught her stealing my takeaway, she turned the tables and said I framed her. I only knew she loved to take advantage of others, but I didn't expect she would steal things. Aunt Zhao also noticed the whispers of the neighbors around her. Although she felt a little nervous, her habit of being arrogant and domineering over the years made her unwilling to show weakness in front of others. He looked around at his neighbors with an attitude of being unafraid of boiling water. What are you talking about? Come to me and say that you think I, the neighborhood committee director, am easy to bully, don't you? In fact, Aunt Zhao is just an ordinary staff member of the neighborhood committee. But she often calls herself the director of the neighborhood committee and gives herself a title to show off in front of her neighbors. She often uses her job to embarrass her neighbors, making everyone respect her. The neighbors all knew how difficult she was to deal with, so they all chose to stay away from her and were unwilling to argue with her. This also made Aunt Zhao even more arrogant and domineering, and she developed her current arrogant attitude. Lin Feng stood at the door, watching Aunt Zhao's performance, and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He knew Aunt Zhao's background very well and was no longer surprised by her arrogant behavior. Neighborhood committee director? You really think you're an important person? When Aunt Zhao heard Lin Feng's ridicule, her face instantly turned ugly. Aunt Zhao was even more angry when she saw that Lin Feng did not back down because of her words, but mocked her instead. She felt that she had lost face in front of her neighbors and must make Lin Feng pay the price. So, she stood firmly where she was, refusing to leave, and insisted that Lin Feng compensate her for her medical expenses and mental damages. After the property learned of this, they quickly sent someone to persuade the couple. They knew Aunt Zhao's personality and knew she was a difficult person, so they were very cautious. However, no matter how the property staff tried to persuade her, Aunt Zhao refused to give in. She considered herself a victim and that Lin Feng must pay the price for her grandson's illness. The property staff had no choice but to call the police for help. Soon, a police car came roaring in, the door slammed open, and 2 policemen quickly jumped out of the car. Lin Feng looked at the police and began to tell them the whole incident in detail. Aunt Zhao looked at the police in front of her, obviously feeling guilty, and defended herself. Who stole your takeaway? You left the takeaway outside the door, and I thought you didn't want it, so you took it away. As soon as Aunt Zhao finished speaking, the air around them seemed to freeze. All eyes were focused on her, she really took shamelessness to the extreme. Lin Feng looked at her coldly, with a sarcastic smile on his face. There are so many cars parked in the neighborhood, why don't you pick them up and take them home? Lin Feng's voice was not loud, but it was full of sarcasm. His words made Aunt Zhao's face turn pale and blue. She obviously did not expect Lin Feng to refute her so rudely. After listening to Lin Feng's narration, the police frowned. They quickly understood the whole story, but looking at Aunt Zhao's elderly figure, they couldn't take her away just for a few takeouts. Therefore, the police just criticized and educated Aunt Zhao, and then left the scene seriously. However, Aunt Zhao did not realize her mistake because of the police's criticism. On the contrary, she thought it was Lin Feng who made her lose face in front of everyone, so she held a grudge against him. She decided to find an opportunity to teach Lin Feng a lesson and restore the face of the neighborhood committee. Director. Chapter 12. The supplies have been almost prepared, and Lin Feng's mood has gradually relaxed. So, he decided to get a gym membership, find a beautiful personal trainer, and use the remaining 2 months to exercise well. Why do you want a female personal trainer? This needs no explanation, everyone understands it. Lin Feng came to a well-known gym outside the community and quickly completed the formalities. Then, he selected a beautiful personal trainer with a curvy figure and a pretty face from among the many personal trainers. Of course, the price is also the highest. Hello, sir. My name is Lin Warner. What should I call you? Lin Warner was very glad that Lin Feng chose her, because she could tell from the way Lin Feng was dressed that he was a rich man. Lin Warner has been working in the fitness industry for 5 years and has come into contact with all kinds of people every day, so she has some good eyesight. Who doesn't love money? If she didn't want to find a rich man, she wouldn't come here to work. Lin Feng was very satisfied with Lin Warner, especially her round and perky buttocks, which made him think of something else. Just call me Lin Feng. I don't like to be too polite. Lin Warner smiled slightly and nodded. Okay, I'll be obedient. The voice is charming and full of teasing. After all, Lin Feng was a man who had seen and experienced a lot, so it was impossible for him to be fooled by her voice. This was Lin Feng's first time in the gym. Under Lin Warner's guidance, he quickly became familiar with the various fitness equipment. Oh, Lin Feng, your physical fitness is really great, better than some fitness coaches, it's really enviable. Lin Feng also felt this. After his rebirth, he felt that his body had undergone great changes. Both physical and mental strength are very abundant. He never paid attention to it until he fought with Li Miai and Tang Weiwei, when he felt it clearly. Now that Lin Warner said this again, it proved that rebirth had brought him benefits. Sure enough, during the exercise, the 2 people's bodies touched many times. I don't know whether it was Lin Feng who did it on purpose or Lin Warner who did it on purpose. Moreover, Lin Warner kept showing off her physical advantages to Li Yang. Especially when doing squats, her butt is so plump and round, comparable to that of a black girl. It seemed that an accidental discharge of a gun was about to happen. Lin Feng's phone suddenly rang. After taking a quick look at the display, I saw that it was a call from Gao Gang, the owner of the modification factory. I guess the materials for building the safe house have been prepared. Lin Feng hurriedly answered the phone. Hello, Mr. Lin. I have prepared all the materials and equipment according to your requirements. We can start working now. Is there anything else you need me to tell you? Hearing Gao Gang's words, Lin Feng felt relieved. Boss Gao, thank you for your hard work. I don't have any special requirements. Just modify it according to what we agreed before. Also, you must ensure the construction period. If you complete it 1 day ahead of schedule, I will get an extra million. Gao Gang nodded repeatedly on the other end of the phone. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. We will definitely strictly control quality and safety according to your requirements. Complete the modification work as quickly as possible. This phone call also interrupted the good things between Lin Feng and Lin Warner. After hanging up the phone, Lin Feng hurriedly met with Gao Gang and confirmed the renovation plan again. Lin Feng felt more confident. However, during the transformation period, he naturally could not continue to live in another home. After leaving the villa, Lin Feng drove to a well-known 5-star hotel in the city. When Lin Feng stepped into the door of the presidential suite, an unprecedented sense of luxury hit him. This was the first time he stayed in such a high-end room. Every detail revealed the smell of money. Although he had a considerable income in the past, he had always lived a very tight life because he had to support Zhao Ting's family. After touring the suite, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel deeply moved. This is the life of rich people. As night fell, Lin Feng came to the restaurant and enjoyed the delicious French meal. However, just as he was enjoying the delicious food, a loud noise broke the silence. He turned his head and saw a man and a woman arguing fiercely. What Lin Feng didn't expect was that the woman turned out to be his neighbor, Sun Ziyi. The person arguing with Sun Ziyi was a bloated middle-aged man. Lin Feng could tell at a glance that with Sun Ziyi's eyes, she would never fall for this kind of man. The argument became more and more intense, and Sun Ziyi became more and more agitated. She suddenly picked up the water cup at hand, splashed it hard on the man's face, and shouted angrily. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have a little power. You are just a department director. What will happen if I quit? The man was completely enraged by Sun Ziyi's behavior. He pointed at her nose and cursed. Damn it, you BCH, how dare you throw water at me? Believe it or not, I will get you out of the hospital in a minute. This man was the director of the hospital where Sun Ziyi worked. Zhang Manfu. He used his power to harass Sun Ziyi many times, but was firmly rejected by Sun Ziyi every time. Today, he even went so far as to trick Sun Ziyi here under the pretext of discussing business. When Sun Ziyi first arrived at the restaurant, Zhang Manfu said that he had booked a private room. But Sun Ziyi was careful and chose to dine in the hall. However, Zhang Manfu did not say a word about work and his mouth was full of dirty words. Sun Ziyi felt extremely disgusted and angry. She was about to turn around and leave, but Zhang Manfu held her shoulders tightly. Sun Ziyi struggled to break free, but her strength was too little to break free from Zhang Manfu's restraints. She could only look at Zhang Manfu angrily and said, What do you want to do? This is a society ruled by law. Zhang Manfu laughed loudly under the influence of alcohol. Haha, rule of law? I don't believe you dare to sue me. He hadn't finished speaking yet. Suddenly, a hand stretched out from behind Sun Ziyi and clasped Zhang Manfu's fingers. Following a crisp sound and Zhang Manfu's scream like a pig being slaughtered, the entire hall fell silent. Lin Feng stood behind Sun Ziyi, his eyes firm and cold. He looked at Zhang Manfu coldly and said, I don't care who you are, but you can't treat Miss Sun like this. After saying that, he let go of his hand. Zhang Manfu covered his fingers in pain and screamed. The other guests in the restaurant were stunned by the scene and they all looked sideways. Sun Ziyi was also very surprised. She didn't expect Lin Feng to appear and help her at this time. She looked at Lin Feng gratefully and said, Thank you, Mr. Linear. Lin Feng smiled slightly and said, You're welcome. I just did what I was supposed to do. He turned to Zhang Manfu and warned him. If you dare to harass Sun Ziyi again in the future, I will make you pay the price. After saying that, he took Sun Ziyi's hand and left the restaurant. Chapter 13. Zhang Manfu was left alone in the hall, groaning in pain. Other guests in the restaurant pointed at him and talked about him. He was really embarrassed. At this moment, Lin Feng was taking Sun Ziyi to the hotel lobby. Mr. Lin, thank you so much. If you hadn't shown up in time, I really don't know what to do. Sun Ziyi looked at Lin Feng gratefully and said. Lin Feng smiled slightly and shook his head. Miss Sun, you are too polite. I just did what I should do. No one would stand by and watch you being bullied. The two of them talked as they came to the lobby, and Lin Feng booked a room for Sun Ziyi so that she could rest for the night. Mr. Lin, thank you so much for tonight. If it weren't for you, I might have encountered unpredictable dangers. Sun Ziyi once again expressed her gratitude to Lin Feng. Lin Feng waved his hand and said. Miss Sun, you are too polite. I believe there are still many righteous people in this world who will lend a helping hand at the critical moment. Just have a good rest tonight, and everything will be fine tomorrow. Sun Ziyi nodded, looked at Lin Feng gratefully, and then walked into the room. After bidding farewell to Sun Ziyi, Lin Feng returned to his room. Although he had a strong interest in her, but he knew very well that such a woman should not be treated radically easily. An overly presumptuous pursuit would only make her feel disgusted and might even destroy the delicate relationship that has just been established between the two of them. The end of the world has quietly arrived. This era is full of crisis and uncertainty. This makes him need a professional female doctor like Sun Ziyi even more. Her medical skills will be an important guarantee for his survival in the end times. Moreover, as supplies become increasingly scarce, Lin Feng believes that he will have many opportunities to control Sun Ziyi. Lin Feng lay in bed, tossing and turning, but couldn't fall asleep. What's going on? Can't you sleep without a woman around you? This reminded him of Li Miai and Tang Weiwei, who were so passionate. Every time he can be immersed in it and enjoy it to the fullest. During this period of time, he has become accustomed to the gentle land of being embraced by women on both sides. But now there was suddenly no one around him, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. He took out his cell phone and called Tang Weiwei and Li Miai respectively. Unfortunately, however, they were not in Haining and could not come to accompany him. He put down his phone and prepared to continue trying to fall asleep. However, at this moment, the cell phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the display screen and found that it was Sun Yu calling. Lin Feng was slightly stunned, then picked up the phone. What's up? Lin Feng asked. Well, I have something to tell you about Zhao Ting. Sun Yu's voice came from the other end of the phone. Okay, go ahead, I'm listening. Lin Feng replied. Let's talk in person. It's not convenient over the phone. Sun Yu said. Lin Feng hesitated for a moment. He knew what Sun Yu's purpose was, which was to take the opportunity to get close to him. Okay, I'll send you the address and you can come directly. After hanging up the phone, Lin Feng found a quiet bar near the hotel and sent the address to Sun Yu. After a while, Sun Yu arrived at the bar where Lin Feng was according to the address. She deliberately wore a tight stepmother skirt, which made her look curvy. But temperament is innate, no matter how she dresses, she can't compare with Sun Ziyi. However, Sun Yu is very confident in herself. She believes that she has a unique charm that is enough to attract Lin Feng's attention. She walked towards Lin Feng with a smile, sat opposite him and said, Lin Feng, sorry to have kept you waiting. Lin Feng raised his head and his eyes lingered on Sun Yu for a moment, obviously interested in Sun Yu's clothes. But it was only for a moment. Lin Feng spoke straight to the point. Tell me, what happened to Zhou Tu? Hearing this, Sun Yu pretended to have eaten something wrong and pouted. Why are you in such a hurry? Come have a couple of drinks with me first. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. He drank a few glasses of wine with Sun Yu and chatted for a while. After a few drinks, Sun Yu was already tipsy, with a dazed look in his eyes, as he looked at Lin Feng and said. Lin Feng, do you know? I have liked you for a long time, and I have expressed my feelings to you before, but you rejected me. I know it was because of Zhou Tu. But you loved her so much, and yet she betrayed you. Now that you are divorced, can you give me a chance? Don't worry, I will never be like Zhou Tu. I will love you with all my heart. A green tea BCH, and you still have the nerve to talk about love here. You are so shameless. Lin Feng was not surprised at all by Sun Yu's words. This was her main purpose in calling Lin Feng out. Lin Feng said mercilessly. We are all adults and we have known each other for several years, what kind of person are you? Do you think I don't know? It's ridiculous to hear the word love coming out of your mouth. Sun Yu was in an awkward situation. She didn't expect Lin Feng to be so direct and merciless in his words. She tried to argue. Lin Feng, listen to me, I have never met someone who is worth my efforts before, I have seen how you treated Zhou Tu in the past few years, so I think you are a man worthy of entrusting my life to. Lin Feng sneered. Forget it, let's talk about Zhou Tu. Sun Yu also knew that he couldn't be hasty, lest he offend Lin Feng. He sighed and said. Zhou Tu has not given up the idea of a euro remarrying you. These days she is applying for a mortgage and planning to have plastic surgery. Damn, it's just a trivial matter. What does it have to do with me whether she has plastic surgery or not? No matter what she does, we can't get back together. That's it. I'm leaving. After saying that, Lin Feng stood up and walked out of the bar. Sun Yu sat there, staring blankly at Lin Feng's departing back. Her heart was filled with disappointment and unwillingness, but she also understood that some things could not be forced. She sighed, picked up the glass and drank it all, then left the bar silently. The moment Sun Yu walked out of the bar, the night had already enveloped the entire city. She was about to leave, but unexpectedly saw Lin Feng standing not far away, talking intimately with a plump woman. The woman's huge butt was particularly prominent under the outline of the shark pants, which made Sun Yu feel jealous. That's right, the woman who was talking to Lin Feng was none other than his personal trainer at the gym. Lin Wanner. Sun Yu felt uneasy for a moment. She didn't want to appear too out of control in front of Lin Feng. She had no right to interfere in Lin Feng's affairs, so she suppressed her jealousy and did not step forward. Immediately. Chapter 14. Sun Yu quietly took out his mobile phone, secretly took a photo, and then quickly left the scene. At this time, Lin Feng did not expect to meet Lin Wanner here. He looked at the charming woman in front of him with some surprise and couldn't help asking. Coach Lin, it's so late, where are you going? Lin Wanner smiled coquettishly and replied. It's time to get off work now, just call me Wanner. It's all because of you. You left me alone in the gym this morning, so I came out to have a drink. Lin Wanner's body was staggering, and she smelled strongly of alcohol, obviously she had drunk a lot. How much have you drunk? Let me take you home. Seeing that Lin Wanner might fall at any time, Lin Feng hurriedly supported her. Lin Wanner also snuggled into Lin Feng's arms and said. Your home? Or mine? Damn, isn't this tempting me to commit a crime? I'm not Liu Xiaohui. I was worried about not being able to sleep, how could I let the duck at my mouth fly away? Lin Feng said. My house is being renovated. I booked a presidential suite at the hotel in front. Why don't you come with me? When Lin Wanner heard this, a glimmer of surprise flashed in her eyes. She nodded and spoke with a trembling voice. Okay, I'll go with you. But you can't bully me. Along the way, Lin Wanner seemed to be completely intoxicated by the alcohol, and her whole body was pressed against Lin Feng. There was a hint of teasing in her tipsy eyes, which made Lin Feng's heart beat faster. He could clearly feel the softness of Lin Wanner's chest, and the touch made him feel hot and uncomfortable. It felt like all the blood in my body was boiling. Although Lin Feng tried his best to stay calm, his inner desires continued to grow. He tried hard to suppress his impulse and finally returned to the hotel room after enduring the ordeal. As soon as he entered the room, Lin Feng quickly and gently put Lin Wanner on the sofa. Sit down for a moment. I'm going to take a shower. It's too hot. I'm all sweaty. However, just as Lin Feng was about to turn around and leave, Lin Wanner suddenly grabbed his hand. She looked at Lin Feng lovingly, with anticipation glittering in her eyes. She said softly. How about, let's take a shower together. The next morning, Sun Yu hurriedly got out of bed and rushed to Zhao Ting's house impatiently. Zhao Ting opened the door and saw Sun Yu, who was sweating profusely, and couldn't help but frown. Why are you so anxious so early in the morning? Sun Yu sat down on the sofa, panting, and drank a full glass of water. Only then did the tension ease a little. She looked at Zhao Ting and said seriously. Ting Ting, I have something important to tell you. You must be mentally prepared. Zhao Ting looked at Sun Yu's serious expression and couldn't help feeling a little worried. Did anything important happen? Sun Yu took a deep breath, took out his cell phone, and found the photos of Lin Feng and Lin Wanner that he had taken last night. She handed the phone to Zhou Tu and said, "Last night, I accidentally saw Lin Feng found another woman. Look, this woman's figure and big butt are simply a killer weapon to conquer men." Zhou Tu took the phone and stared at Lin Wanner in the photo. She had to admit that Lin Wanner's figure was indeed what every man dreamed of. Zhou Tu said anxiously. She must have achieved this figure through long-term exercise. It's too late for me to improve now. Sun Yu rolled his eyes at Zhou Tu and said, "Are you stupid? You're planning to get plastic surgery, right? What kind of body shape can't you achieve? I'm telling you, you better hurry up. If Lin Feng marries another woman, you won't have any chance at all." Of course Sun Yu wouldn't be so kind as to remind Zhou Tu. She actually wanted Zhou Tu to interfere with Lin Feng's relationship with other women. This way she will have more time to interact with Lin Feng. Zhou Tu's parents were also sitting in the living room. After hearing Sun Yu's words, Li Huan quickly interrupted. "Mr. Zhao, did you hear me? Hurry up and mortgage the house so that Ting Ting can get plastic surgery. Otherwise, Lin Feng will really be snatched away by those vixens." Zhao Jiangguo kept smoking. This house was the only property of his family. If Lin Feng still doesn't agree to remarry after Zhao Ting has completed her plastic surgery, then their family will be left without a home. However, if they don't find Lin Feng, they will not even have enough food to eat. Now he was in a situation where he couldn't back down. Zhao Jiangguo threw his cigarette butt on the ground. He crushed it hard with his foot a few times, hardened his heart, and said, "Damn it, I'm going to mortgage my house now." Zhang Jiang, sitting in a wheelchair, glared at Zhao Ting's family and shouted angrily. "You damned bunch, you've been thinking about how to please Lin Feng all day long. Now that you've made me like this, you don't want to take responsibility, right? Remember this, I will not let you go even if I become a ghost." Zhao Ting walked up to Zhang Jiang and slapped him twice on the face, saying angrily, "Shut up, if it wasn't for you, would Lin Feng divorce me?" At this moment, Zhao Ting blamed all the responsibility on Zhang Jiang and completely forgot how she betrayed Lin Feng. Moreover, she had long wanted to throw Zhang Jiang out, but Zhang Jiang would definitely take them to court. By then, they will not only have to face huge compensation, but Zhao Jiangguo will also go to jail. So Zhao Ting chose to temporarily support Zhang Jiang and wait for Lin Feng to remarry her. Let Lin Feng give some money to Zhang Jiang as compensation, and then kick him out. Zhang Jiang could only endure this humiliation silently. There was nothing he could do since he was already a waste. Under the joint urging of Zhao Ting and Li Huan, Zhao Jiangguo soon found a loan shark in his anxiety and helplessness. The house was mortgaged at a price 50% below the market price. Afterwards, Sun Yu took Zhao Ting and a huge sum of 500,000 yuan to a private plastic surgery center located on the outskirts of the city. Zhao Ting looked at the small storefront in front of her, her heart filled with worry. She stopped and asked hesitantly, "Yu, is this really possible? Why do I feel like it's not very reliable?" Sun Yu looked at Zhao Ting's nervous expression, smiled, patted his chest and made an assurance. "Oh, don't worry. With our relationship, how could I cheat you? Don't be fooled by the small size of this place, but the plastic surgeon here is very good. If I didn't know the boss here, you would have to pay at least 1 million for this kind of plastic surgery. Come on, let's go in." Chapter 15. Zhao Ting looked at Sun Yu's confident look and felt a little relieved about her worries. She followed Sun Yu into the plastic surgery center, praying silently in her heart, hoping that this choice would allow her to be reborn. However, what Zhao Ting didn't know was that this plastic surgery center actually didn't even have business qualifications and the doctor's skills were uneven. Moreover, Sun Yu also took a kickback of 200,000 yuan. Lin Feng didn't know what happened to Zhao Ting. Of course, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. He has been staying in the store these days, immersed in Lin Wanner's gentleness. Thinking back to his past married life with Zhao Ting, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a ripple in his heart. At that time, Zhao Ting always seemed to be dealing with chores, monotonous and boring. This made Lin Feng gradually lose interest in the intimate behavior between husband and wife. However, getting along with Lin Wanner was completely different. She was passionate and took the initiative to attack. The plump buttocks were shaking constantly like a single-cylinder engine with full power. That day, Lin Feng received a call from Gao Gang, informing him that the safe house had been completed and asking him to come over for inspection. Lin Feng then said goodbye to Lin Wanner, with whom he had been staying for a few days, and drove back to the community where he lived. Gao Gang led Lin Feng into the newly built safe house, and every step revealed his attention to detail. As soon as Lin Feng stepped into the house, he was shocked by the exquisiteness and high-tech equipment inside. Jiangsheng Company lived up to everyone's expectations. Not only did it complete the task in a very short time, but it also achieved perfection in every aspect. Look at this alloy plate. It's 30 centimeters thick, enough to withstand all kinds of impacts. But if you look at the outside, you can't see any changes at all. This is our expertise. Lin Feng nodded. He was very satisfied with this low-key luxury. We have selected military-grade ventilation systems to prevent any harmful gases from entering. At the same time, the heating system has also been fully upgraded to ensure that you can live comfortably in any weather. Lin Feng walked to the balcony, and the huge floor-to-ceiling window attracted his attention. He reached out and touched it, feeling that the material was extremely solid. This window is not only bulletproof and explosion-proof, but also filters most ultraviolet rays while ensuring a wide field of vision. This way, you can enjoy the sunshine while staying safe. Afterwards, Gao Gang brought Lin Feng to the living room and turned on a switch on the wall. Suddenly, densely packed surveillance screens appeared on the walls of the entire living room. This is the surveillance system for the entire villa, with a total of 100 high-definition cameras, covering every blind spot. You can always monitor every corner to ensure safety. But you can also connect to the monitoring system through your mobile phone. Lin Feng looked at the surveillance footage and couldn't help but admire Gao Gang's attentiveness and thoughtfulness. Such a monitoring system undoubtedly provides a more solid guarantee for his safety. Finally, Gao Gang took out the documents and formally asked Lin Feng to sign and pay the balance. Although the two have a close relationship, they always maintain clear boundaries in business. Lin Feng signed his name with a smile, and then paid the balance through bank transfer. He sat on the sofa, looking around his new home, his heart filled with satisfaction and peace. This safe house can provide him with sufficient protection in the end times. Ding ling ling. The doorbell interrupted Lin Feng's thoughts. He walked to the display screen on the wall. I saw Sun Ziyi standing outside the door of the villa, holding a fruit basket in her hand and a faint smile on her face. Lin Feng opened the door and invited Sun Ziyi in. After they sat down on the sofa, Lin Feng poured her a cup of tea. Sun Ziyi looked around and saw the unique decoration style of Lin Feng's new home. Especially the decorations made of steel plates and the central fireplace, she couldn't help but feel a little curious. She recalled the recent rumors about Lin Feng buying large quantities of food. I couldn't help but feel a little confused. She asked tentatively. Mr. Lin, I heard that you recently purchased a large amount of supplies. Is there any special reason? Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Looking at Sun Ziyi's inquiring eyes, he knew that she might have heard some rumors. He hesitated for a moment, then decided to reveal some information to her. He took a deep breath and his eyes became firm. Dr. Sun, to be honest, I did get some news. It is said that there will be an unprecedented cold wave coming soon. After hearing this, Sun Ziyi's eyes flashed with surprise. She looked at Lin Feng's determined eyes and knew that he was not joking. Mr. Lin, I believe you. I also think there is no harm in preparing in advance. By the way, do you need any medicine? I work in a hospital, maybe I can get you some. Lin Feng was delighted after hearing this was exactly the help he needed. He looked at Sun Ziyi's concerned eyes and knew that she really wanted to help him. Dr. Sun, thank you so much. I do need some special medicines, especially antibiotics and prescription drugs. You know, these drugs are hard to buy on the market. Sun Ziyi nodded and said. I understand. Although these drugs are strictly controlled, I will try my best to help you make the contact. It shouldn't be a big problem. Sun Ziyi wanted to use this method to repay Lin Feng's favor. Lin Feng looked at Sun Ziyi gratefully, he knew her help meant a lot to him. Dr. Sun, thank you so much. As long as we can get the medicine, the price is not a problem. The more the better. After saying goodbye to Lin Feng, Sun Ziyi quickly returned home and took action immediately. Thanks to Sun Ziyi's unremitting efforts, she lived up to expectations and successfully found the medicine Lin Feng needed. Sun Ziyi excitedly told Lin Feng the good news and told him in detail the location to pick up the goods. These drugs are undoubtedly a timely help to Lin Feng. When Lin Feng arrived at the delivery location, an expression of joy that was difficult to conceal appeared on his face. Seeing a truck full of medicine, Lin Feng was so excited that he was almost speechless. Lin Feng decided to buy the entire truck. He drove the truck to a deserted place. He put the truck and the medicine into his space. The drug problem was solved, which was like a huge weight removed from Lin Feng's heart. When the end of the world comes, medical institutions will be paralyzed and the scarcity of medicines will be more deadly than anything else. And now, with this sufficient reserve of medicine, he seemed to have a sword to resist the end of the world. What made Lin Feng feel more at ease was that he not only had these medicines, but also had a doctor like Sun Ziyi by his side. With the dual protection of Sun Ziyi and medicine, Lin Feng's physical condition was guaranteed as never before. He knew that in this end times, having a healthy body is the greatest wealth. Chapter 16. The next morning, Lin Feng planned to go to the gym to exercise as usual. As soon as he walked out of the house, he noticed an object curled up and lying quietly on the ground outside the gate. Lin Feng frowned slightly, trying to identify the identity of this unidentified object. He walked carefully to the gate, and when Lin Feng slowly opened the gate, the object seemed to be startled and moved suddenly, scaring Lin Feng so much that he almost jumped up. What the hell is this? He hurriedly took 2 steps back, keeping a certain distance. Hearing Lin Feng's voice, the object slowly stood up. Lin Feng was startled again, because the object in front of him turned out to be a person. To be more precise, a woman. Nima, is this a person? Or a woman? It's not Lin Feng's fault that he was so surprised. The woman in front of him was really strange. Her mouth was crooked, her eyes were slanted to one side, and her entire face was so distorted that her original appearance was completely unrecognizable. Her breasts are of different sizes, the left one is obviously smaller than the right one. Her butt was a strange square shape, as if it had been hit with a hammer. If she hadn't stood up suddenly, Lin Feng would never have imagined that this was a person. He stood there, speechless for a moment, and could only stare at this strange woman with eyes wide open in amazement. The woman stood there, staring at Lin Feng with her eyes fixed, her voice weak and trembling. Linear. Lin Feng, it's me, Zhou Tu. Please, please, help me. Lin Feng was stunned. He opened his eyes wide, unable to believe his ears. This thing that is neither human nor ghost is actually the Zhou Tu that he once knew? They have lived together for 5 years, and Lin Feng is very familiar with her voice, appearance, and smile. But now, the woman in front of him made him feel strange and scared. Her face was distorted beyond recognition and her skin was tight, as if it had been pulled by some force. Lin Feng's mind flashed with Sun Yu's mention of Zhou Tu going for plastic surgery. So, is this the result of a failed plastic surgery? An inexplicable anger and disgust surged in his heart. He had been so good to Zhou Tu, but she betrayed him in their relationship. Now that she has ended up like this, it can be considered that she deserves it. However, Lin Feng did not intend to let her go just because of her pity. The gnawing pain in his heart would not be alleviated in the slightest because of her miserable condition. He must make Zhou Tu pay the price and make her suffer neither the fate nor the death. He walked slowly towards Zhou Tu, with a cold light in his eyes. Zhou Tu, do you think I will help you? When you betrayed me, you should have expected this to happen. Zhou Tu's body trembled even more violently. She seemed to want to say something, but her lips were trembling and she couldn't open her mouth. The fear and despair in her eyes made Lin Feng feel happy. Lin Feng continued. But I won't let you die so easily. I will let you know the price of betraying me. Lin Feng's words were like sharp arrows, piercing Zhou Tu's heart. She tried to take a step forward, reaching out to Lin Feng with trembling hands. I wanted to grab his arms and beg for forgiveness and help. Lin Feng, I know I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Zhou Tu's voice was filled with tears, and her eyes were filled with tears. I beg you, help me, I don't want to be like this, I really don't want to. However, Lin Feng looked at her coldly and shook her arm away. Zhou Tu was thrown so hard that she staggered and almost fell to the ground. The despair and anger that surged in her heart made it impossible for her to control her emotions. Lin Feng, how can you be so cruel? I became like this because of you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have taken this path. Lin Feng looked at Zhou Tu coldly, with a mocking smile on his lips. You choose your own path, it has nothing to do with me. However, the way you look now is quite a good match for that loser Zhang Jiang. Zhou Tu's heart sank suddenly. When she mentioned Zhang Jiang, she became even more worried. She had been keeping that loser Zhang Jiang at home, and now, she herself had become like this, with her house mortgaged to a loan shark. If they don't get Lin Feng's help, their family will really have no choice but to wait for death. Thump. Zhou Tu knelt in front of Lin Feng. Tears welled up in her eyes and she spoke in sobs. Lin Feng, for the sake of our 5 years of relationship, please help me. I don't ask you to remarry me. As long as you can lend me some money to help me get through this difficult time, I will definitely pay you back double in the future. Lin Feng looked at Zhou Tu crying, but his heart was not disturbed at all. He still had an indifferent expression and spoke lightly. You're doing this again. Do you think it will work? Not to mention you, even if your father kneels in front of me, it won't work. After saying that, he turned and left, mercilessly leaving Zhou Tu kneeling there alone. Zhou Tu stared at Lin Feng's departing back angrily, a hint of ruthlessness flashing in her eyes. She gritted her teeth and vowed to make Lin Feng pay the price. Lin Feng, if you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. I will never let you live in peace. Lin Feng did not pay much attention to Zhou Tu's appearance. In his opinion, the temperature will drop sharply in 2 days, and it will be difficult for Zhou Tu to cause any trouble in such an environment. However, he is currently facing 2 thorny problems. Fuel and guns. As for the issue of guns, Lin Feng has temporarily given up the search. Although the crossbow in his hand is not as powerful as a gun, it is enough to deal with most situations in the apocalypse. He decided to focus on finding fuel, hoping to find more guns after the apocalypse. The fuel issue is of vital importance to Lin Feng. He knew very well that in this doomsday, fuel was the key to keeping life going. However, due to extremely strict fuel control, it is not easy to obtain large amounts of fuel. In order to solve this problem, Lin Feng visited dozens of gas stations after exercising. In the end, after some twists and turns, Lin Feng only succeeded in purchasing 200 liters of fuel. This amount of fuel is just a drop in the bucket for the generator and will be used up in a few days. When Lin Feng arrived at the last gas station, he overheard 2 truck drivers whispering to each other. Hey, I heard from Lao Wang yesterday that there is a logistics park not far ahead, and there is a private gas station inside, and the fuel price there is much cheaper than here. Really? Then why don't we refuel here? Let's just go over there and take a look. Chapter 17. Lin Feng's mind moved, and he immediately realized that this might be the key to solving his fuel problem. He quickly got back into the car, started the engine, and quietly followed the 2 trucks. After driving for a distance, they finally arrived at the logistics park. At this time, it was completely dark. Lin Feng parked the car in a secluded place and observed quietly. 2 large trucks stopped in front of the gas station and began the long process of refueling. Lin Feng estimated the time and it took them more than an hour to fill up the tank. Lin Feng waited patiently until he confirmed that the 2 trucks had left. He then got out of the car and walked quickly to the gas station. I saw an old man in his 50s sitting in the lounge, looking a little impatient. Hello, I want to cheer up. The old man looked up at him and said expressionlessly. It's time to get off work. No more work. Lin Feng's heart sank, but he did not give up. He tried to communicate with the old man and explain his needs. However, the old man refused to say a word. He took out a bottle of white wine from under the table and tasted it alone. Lin Feng sighed helplessly and prepared to give up. However, just as he was about to get in the car and leave, a voice suddenly came from behind him. Little brother, you didn't add oil. Lin Feng turned around and saw a middle-aged man in work clothes walking towards him. He took out a cigarette, handed it to the man and said, "Yes, this old man is too stubborn. I wonder if you know him, brother, and if you can help me put in a good word for him." The man took the cigarette, sniffed it gently, and then said, "This old man Wang is famous for his stubborn temper. Once it's time to get off work, even if the boss comes, it's useless. However, he has a hobby, which is drinking. If you are in a hurry, you can buy him 2 bottles of good wine, and he will definitely cheer you up immediately." Lin Feng frowned when he heard this. He hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "Forget it, the little oil I add is not enough to buy him some wine." After saying that, Lin Feng said goodbye to the man and drove out of the park. However, he did not go far, but drove the car to a secluded place and hid it. The man's words gave Lin Feng an idea. If he could successfully implement this plan, he might be able to obtain a large amount of fuel. Lin Feng was thinking quietly in the darkness, and possible solutions flashed through his mind. The brave will die of overeating, and the timid will die of starvation. Just do it. Taking advantage of the cover of night, Lin Feng cleverly bypassed all the surveillance cameras and nimbly climbed over the wall to enter the logistics park. The park was completely dark and silent, with only a faint light on at a gas station in the distance. Lin Feng approached the gas station cautiously, fearing to disturb anything. He looked through the window and saw old Li sitting in the lounge. There were only a few bottles of wine and peanuts left in front of him, and it was obvious that he had almost finished drinking. He couldn't help but secretly admire that old Li's alcohol tolerance was really amazing. He could actually drink a pound of liquor by himself. Lin Feng took out 2 bottles of treasured pure brut urquatu and a stack of fragrant braised beef from his space. He thought that people of old Li's age must have a special liking for this traditional liquor. Although there were many seafoods such as lobster and abalone in his space, considering Mr. Li's age and taste, he still chose braised beef with soy sauce. He placed the wine and beef in a prominent position at the entrance of the gas station. Then he took out a bottle of urquatu and threw it hard towards the door of the lounge where old Li was. With a crisp crack, the wine bottle shattered to the ground and the wine splashed everywhere. The sudden noise made old Li visibly stunned. He obviously did not expect such an emergency to happen. He reacted quickly, stood up and turned on all the lights in the gas station, trying to see clearly what was happening. When old Li walked out of the lounge, he immediately smelled the rich aroma of wine in the air and the broken glass scattered on the ground. He frowned slightly and spoke loudly. "Who? Come out here, how can you destroy things like this?" He looked around, but saw no one. Old Li squatted down, carefully smelled the wine on the ground, and licked the remaining wine. His eyes suddenly lit up and he said in surprise. "Damn it, this is pure brut urquatu. Who knows this well enough to know that I, old Li, like this?" Old Li stood up and, following the smell of wine, his eyes unconsciously moved towards the entrance of the gas station. There, 2 brand new bottles of pure brut urquatu were quietly placed, next to which was a stack of braised beef with tempting aroma. His eyes suddenly widened and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. He walked over quickly, carefully picked up a bottle of urquatu, and gently stroked the bottle, as if feeling the familiarity and intimacy. "This is good wine, and this beef is top quality too." He couldn't help but open a bottle of urquatu and took a deep sniff. The rich aroma of the wine intoxicated him. Then he turned around and looked around, trying to find the generous gift giver. However, there was complete silence in the night, without any movement. Old Li scratched his head, a confused expression on his face. He thought about it and said to himself. "This person is really strange. He sent such good wine and beef but never showed up. But since you understand me so well, I won't be polite." After saying that, old Li took the urquatu and braised beef and walked back to the lounge. Start enjoying this sudden wine and food. While he was tasting the mellow aroma of urquatu, seeing this scene, Lin Feng showed a satisfied smile. "I just don't believe that 3 kilograms of liquor can't defeat you." He hid quietly in the dark, his eyes always fixed on old Li's every move. Lin Feng actually guessed it right, urquatu and braised beef and soy sauce are very much to old Li's taste. In less than 10 minutes, half a bottle of wine was gone. His face gradually turned red and his eyes became blurry, and he was obviously drunk. As the bottle of urquatu was completely drunk, old Li finally couldn't hold on and fell off the chair. He struggled to get up several times but failed, and finally he could only lie on the ground honestly. Lin Feng couldn't see his expression clearly, nor was he sure whether he was asleep or dead. At this moment, Lin Feng could not care about so much. He quickly took out a set of loose clothes from his space. "Cover your head and body completely to avoid being captured by the gas station's surveillance cameras." After some searching, Lin Feng finally found the location of the underground oil tank. Without any hesitation or politeness, he quickly collected all the fuel in the 4 tanks into his own space. When Lin Feng returned home, it was already bright. He didn't expect to get fuel in this way. Chapter 18. It doesn't matter. There are only 3 days left until the end of the world. In such a short time, no one would be able to find out about him. Lin Feng tossed and turned all night and was exhausted. He finally fell on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. However, on the other side of the gas station, things were turbulent. Old Li sat in the chair with lifeless eyes, as if he had been hit hard by something, and he had lost his former vitality. Faced with the police's questioning, he could only repeatedly say the 3 words "I don't know" with a hint of trembling and helplessness in his voice. The police were also confused. They retrieved the surveillance video from the gas station and reviewed it carefully. Sure enough, in the early hours of the morning, a sneaky figure quietly entered the gas station. He moved quickly and carefully, as if he was looking for something. However, what is strange is that the figure was empty-handed when he went in and empty-handed when he left, and it is impossible to tell what he took away. The policemen frowned, their hearts full of doubts. If this figure stole 4 large tanks of fuel, that's simply unbelievable because he wasn't seen taking anything in the surveillance video. They began to wonder if there was no oil in the tank or if there was something wrong with the management of the gas station. The police finally concluded that there was indeed no oil in the tank. This result stunned old Li. He could never have imagined this would be the outcome. Lin Feng, on the other hand, had a smug smile on his face in his sleep, as if everything was under his control. After waking up, Lin Feng felt refreshed, as if the whole world was brand new. He quickly got up, walked to the window, pushed it open, and a gust of fresh air blew in his face, making him feel particularly comfortable. Back in the house, Lin Feng began to check the various supplies he had prepared. He counted them one by one to make sure all items were in place without any omissions. Looking at these well-prepared supplies, his heart was filled with peace of mind and satisfaction. In addition, he also specially ordered 2 snowmobiles so that he could travel conveniently after the end of the world. However, although most of the supplies were ready, the problem of guns remained unresolved. Lin Feng knew very well that in the end times, the importance of guns was self-evident. However, he also understood that going out to look for guns was too risky and he might encounter danger. So he decided to put aside the issue of guns for the time being and look for it when he had the chance. At present, he already has long-range weapons such as bows and crossbows, which are enough to deal with some emergencies. In the past 2 days, Tang Weiwei and Li Mei have been trying to contact Lin Feng frequently. However, he declined every time with various reasons. During his communication with them, Lin Feng also revealed some information about the upcoming sudden drop in temperature. However, they did not take this matter to heart. Instead, they felt that Lin Feng was using this excuse to distance himself from them. Lin Feng was helpless about this. He had tried his best to remind them, but if they didn't believe him, there was nothing he could do. Because they didn't live in the same community, Lin Feng estimated that he wouldn't even have the chance to meet her in the future. In his eyes, they might just be 2 passers-by in his life journey. At this moment, Sun Ziyi took the initiative to send a message to Lin Feng. Mr. Lin, when will the cold snap you mentioned last time come? I have a lot of food stored at home, but some of it is about to expire. I don't know if I should deal with it in advance. Lin Feng didn't expect that Sun Ziyi would care so much about what he said. Miss Sun, please replace expired food as soon as possible to avoid causing harm to your body. According to reliable information, the temperature will drop significantly tonight, so please take precautions to prevent the cold and ensure safety. If there is any special situation, please contact me as soon as possible. Lin Feng knew very well that in the end times, survival was often more important than anything else. The reason why he was particularly concerned about Sun Ziyi's safety was not just because she was beautiful. In the end times when supplies are scarce and people are in panic, sometimes a packet of instant noodles can conquer a woman. What he values a euro more is Dr. Sun Ziyi's identity. In this world full of unknowns and dangers, Sun Ziyi's medical skills are undoubtedly an important additional protection for him. Lin Feng understood that although he might not use Sun Ziyi's medical skills, he must have the talent. It is better to plan ahead than to fix the problem after it has happened. Therefore, he must ensure Sun Ziyi's safety. After the chat, Lin Feng sat quietly in the room, stroking the hunting dog named Orlan lying beside him with his fingers. He had spent a lot of money to hire someone to specially train this hunting dog, with a simple and clear purpose, to be his bodyguard and protect his safety. The human heart is unpredictable, and Lin Feng knows this very well. In this uncertain world, trust and loyalty between people are becoming increasingly fragile. Dogs don't have complicated emotions or greed. As long as you give them enough food and love, they will always be loyal to you and never leave you. The end of the world is approaching, and this news is like a heavy stone pressing on Lin Feng's heart. He was reborn and had experienced the cruelty of the end of the world. He was deeply worried and uneasy about the impending disaster. He couldn't help but start to wonder, would things in the world change because of his rebirth? Is it possible that the end of the world will never come? However, these ideas were just unrealistic fantasies in his mind. Lin Feng looked at the clock on the wall nervously, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. His heartbeat quickened as time passed. He clearly remembered that on this day in his previous life, the temperature dropped sharply starting at 9 o'clock in the evening, and the whole world was covered with ice and snow overnight. Lin Feng stood up, walked to the window, and looked up at the sky. I saw snowflakes falling, like the prelude to the end of the world. The end of the world finally arrived as promised. A gust of cold wind blew into the room, bringing with it a biting chill, and Lin Feng felt an unprecedented chill. He hurried over and closed the window tightly. However, the indoor temperature is still dropping at a speed visible to the naked eye. As a city located in the south, we have never experienced such cold weather. However, Lin Feng was not worried about this. He had already made full preparations. He took out the wood and coal that had been prepared long ago and lit the fireplace. The flames jumped in the hearth, emitting a warm glow. At the same time, he also started the air circulation system to allow the air in the room to flow and the temperature gradually rose. Soon, the indoor temperature rose to 20 degrees Celsius again, making people feel comfortable and pleasant. In such a scene, a steaming hot midnight snack is undoubtedly the best choice. Chapter 19. Lin Feng walked into the kitchen and took out Hai Dai Lao hot pot base from the space, as well as various fresh vegetables, meat slices and seafood. He cleaned the ingredients one by one, then put them into the pot and started cooking. After a while, Lin Feng brought a pot of steaming hot pot to the floor-to-ceiling window. The snow fell heavier and heavier, and in a short period of time, the ground of the community was covered with white. Haining City is located in the warm south, and it is rare to see snowflakes on ordinary days, let alone such heavy snow. At this moment, the residents of the community seemed to have their childhood innocence awakened by the sudden heavy snow. They went out of their homes and played in the snow, their laughter echoing in the cold wind. However, Lin Feng sat in front of the French window, his eyes seemed particularly deep. Oh. You are still in the mood to play now, but you will suffer in the future. This heavy snow is just the beginning of the disaster. Ignorant people have not yet realized the impending difficulties. By the time they realize it, they may even lose the courage to survive. Just then, a crisp cell phone ring broke Lin Feng's thoughts. He looked down and saw that it was a message from Sun Ziyi. He clicked it and saw Sun Ziyi's tone was full of excitement and curiosity. Mr. Lin, your information is so accurate. The temperature has really dropped. This is the first time I've seen snow in my life. From the text, Lin Feng could imagine her cheeks flushed with excitement at this moment. Lin Feng had to remind him. Miss Sun, this is just the beginning. The temperature drop will last for a long time. You must not take it lightly. You must take protective measures, not only to prevent the cold wave, but also to prevent people from snatching supplies. After Sun Ziyi received Lin Feng's message, the excitement in her heart gradually faded away, replaced by a trace of uneasiness. Only then did she realize the serious situation behind this heavy snow. She quickly ran to every room and locked all the doors and windows of the house tightly. However, even with the doors and windows closed, it could not completely block out the fear in her heart. She was just a weak woman, and faced with such a disaster, she felt powerless. She can only pray that the cold wave will end soon so that life can return to normal. At the same time, she was silently grateful to Lin Feng in her heart, thanking him for reminding her in advance so that she could be prepared. Lin Feng suddenly felt a burst of heat. He glanced at the thermometer in confusion and saw that the pointer had jumped to 30 degrees above zero. This formed a sharp contrast with the freezing weather outside the window, as if they were two completely different worlds. He frowned, stood up and walked to the fireplace, carefully adjusting the fire. The flames in the fireplace gradually became softer, and the temperature in the room slowly dropped, eventually staying within a comfortable range. At this moment, Orlan, who had been lying quietly on the ground, suddenly raised his head, looked out the window, and let out a quick cry. Lin Feng was attracted by its reaction. He looked in the direction Orlan was looking and immediately showed a surprised expression. How did Orlan know that Zhou Ting's family was my enemy? Although this dog is usually smart, it can't be able to see through people's hearts, right? The direction from which Orlan was yelling was where Zhou Ting's family was pushing Zhang Jiang for a walk in the snow. Their figures looked somewhat desolate in the snow, especially Zhou Ting. Her originally beautiful face has become so disfigured that it is unbearable to look at. Has Zhou Ting accepted the reality? That's right, with her current state, which man would be interested in her? Lin Feng would naturally not let go of such a rare opportunity to humiliate Zhou Ting's family. A sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth, and a feeling of revenge surged in his heart. He quickly took out a set of winter clothes from the space, put them on, and strode out of the villa holding Orlan's hand. The cold air blew towards him, but Lin Feng didn't feel the chill at all. All he had in his heart was hatred for Zhou Ting's family. As soon as he went out, Orlan seemed to have broken free from his restraints and became extremely excited. It is like a wild horse that has broken free from its reins, rolling happily in the snow, enjoying the fun of this silver world to its heart's content. Lin Feng remained calm. He walked forward slowly with a determined look in his eyes. He knew that although Orlan was playing, it was always by his side, ready to deal with any emergency at any time. This kind of tacit understanding and trust made Lin Feng feel extremely at ease. As he walked, he paid attention to his surroundings. Zhou Ting's family had already appeared in his sight. Their figures looked somewhat lonely and desolate in the snow. Lin Feng sneered, quickened his pace and walked towards them. Lin Feng walked up to them and glanced coldly at each of their faces. He deliberately slowed down his speech and spoke in a sarcastic tone. Hey, Zhou Ting, isn't this your lover? How come he has become so miserable now? He even needs to be pushed by someone to walk. How pitiful. When Zhou Ting heard Lin Feng's words, her face turned pale instantly. She bit her lower lip, trying hard to hold back the tears. However, her body was shaking uncontrollably, revealing her inner fear and anger. Zhang Jiang also felt the pressure from Lin Feng, and he tried to stand up and defend Zhou Ting. But when the words came to my lips, they turned into weak excuses. You, don't go too far. We have already received the punishment we deserve. Lin Feng sneered and shook his head in disdain. Deserved punishment? Do you think this is enough? Don't forget, I still remember what you did to me. His words were like a sharp knife, piercing the hearts of Zhou Ting's family. However, Li Huan seemed to still hold on to a glimmer of hope. She hunched her back and spoke to Lin Feng with a pleading voice. Xiao Feng, Ting Ting was really impulsive and confused at the time. Now she regrets it so much every day and cries all day long. Just give her a chance to reform. You have enough money, so give Ting Ting some plastic surgery to restore her appearance. Give Zhang Jiang some more money and send him away. This amount of money is really nothing to you. I promise that Ting Ting will live a good life with you in the future. Zhao Jiangguo's family is now in a desperate situation. The loan sharks have come to their home several times to threaten and intimidate them, forcing them to not even dare to leave the house. Today, because it was snowing, they dared to go out of the house to get some fresh air. In the eyes of Zhao Ting's family, Lin Feng has almost become their last straw. If Lin Feng refused to lend a helping hand, they really didn't know how to face the debt collection from the loan sharks. I'm afraid I can only watch myself being kicked out of the house and becoming homeless. However, they had no idea that when the end of the world came, even survival would become a problem. Those loan sharks would never bother to come and collect their debts from them. Chapter 20. Lin Feng was well aware of their predicament, but he had no intention of reminding them. On the contrary, he wanted them to live in fear and feel the threat of the end of the world at all times. He responded to Li Huihuan with a sneer. Your family is really shameless. What relationship do you have with me now? You want me to give you money? Stop dreaming. Look at your Zhao Ting's current state. Even if she gave me money, I wouldn't even look at her. The failure of the plastic surgery was undoubtedly a huge blow to Zhao Ting. She felt extremely distressed that her appearance would never return to what it had been before. Lin Feng's words were like rubbing salt into her wounds, making her feel heartbroken. She lowered her head, tears silently falling, her heart filled with endless regret and despair. Seeing Zhao Ting's aggrieved look, Zhang Jiang couldn't help but feel happy. Like a flower blooming in spring, but he dared not show any expression on his face. During this period, he lived in the Zhao family like dancing on the edge of a knife, enduring humiliation and torment every moment. If he hadn't cleverly threatened the Zhao family, telling them that if they dared to kick him out, he would have gone to court to sue their entire family without hesitation, and I'm afraid he would have been ruthlessly abandoned on the streets. At this moment, he longed to show the image of a real man, hoping that this would change the attitude of Zhao Ting's family towards him. However, when he caught a glimpse of the ferocious Orlan beside Lin Feng, all his courage seemed to be blown away by a gust of cold wind. He just mustered up the courage to say something. It was as if being strangled by an invisible hand and being held back in the depths of my heart again. But Zhao Jiangguo was different. He had seen through Lin Feng's thoughts. He knew very well that it was impossible for Lin Feng to rekindle his old relationship with Zhao Ting. Now that things have come to this, there is no need for me to endure this humiliation any longer. So, he pointed at Lin Feng's nose angrily and cursed loudly, Lin Feng, you BD, I was really blind. I didn't expect you to be so inhuman. Ting Ting just made a small mistake, but you just kept harping on it and making things difficult for her. I'm telling you, don't think you're great just because you have a few bucks. Even without you, our Zhao family can still thrive. When Zhao Jiangguo was venting his anger, Li Huihuan was always beside him trying to pull him back and make him say less. However, Zhao Jiangguo was at the peak of his anger, and Li Huihuan's dissuasion was of no avail. This scene quickly attracted the attention of the surrounding neighbors, who gathered around to watch and talk about it. Look, this old Zhao is really too much. His own daughter is misbehaving, but he is making a scene here. He is really shameless. Oh, you don't understand Lao Zhao's family. They can even say black is white. It seems that I have to stay away from their family in the future, so as not to be implicated in their troubles. Lin Feng stood there with a sneer on his face. He did not refute Zhao Jiangguo. Because he knows that the eyes of the masses are sharp and they will see the truth clearly. But Orlan, who was lying next to Lin Feng, couldn't help it, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. It barked a few times, then suddenly pounced towards Zhao Jiangguo. Seeing this, Lin Feng did not stop him, but loosened the rope in his hand and let Orlan rush towards Zhao Jiangguo. Orlan's sudden attack caught Zhao Jiangguo off guard. He retreated in panic. But his anger had made him lose his mind, and he shouted loudly, trying to drive away the ferocious big dog. However, Orlan was not afraid at all. He opened his mouth wide, showing his sharp teeth, and rushed straight to Zhao Jiangguo's face. The neighbors around cried out in shock when they saw this, and some even covered their mouths in fear. Some hurriedly retreated, fearing that they would be drawn into the chaos. Li Huihuan was so frightened that her face turned pale. She desperately pulled Zhao Jiangguo, trying to pull him away from Orlan's attack range. However, Zhao Jiangguo's reaction speed was completely incomparable to Orlan's. Although his steps were hurried, Orlan's movements were even faster. Almost in an instant, Orlan pounced on Zhao Jiangguo to the ground like a tiger rushing down the mountain. Zhao Jiangguo's body drew an arc in the air, then fell heavily to the ground, letting out a painful groan. Orlan did not stop. It opened its mouth wide, revealing its sharp fangs, and bit Zhao Jiangguo's exposed nose directly. Zhao Jiangguo screamed in pain and struggled desperately with his hands, trying to push Orlan away, but Orlan was too strong and he couldn't get free at all. The neighbors who were originally watching and talking about the incident were now frightened out of their wits by the sudden turn of events. They screamed and fled in all directions, fearing that they would also become Orlan's target of attack. For a moment, the originally bustling community square was left with only Zhao Jiangguo's shrill screams and Orlan's fierce roars. Lin Feng stood there, his eyes were cold and firm, as if everything was under his control. He did not try to stop Orlan because this was exactly what he wanted to see. He just wanted Zhao Jiangguo to understand that his behavior had angered him, and he would never forgive him easily. However, Lin Feng would not let Orlan really bite Zhao Jiangguo to death. The end of the world has just begun. Letting him die so early is too easy for him. Lin Feng needs Zhao Jiangguo to be alive, to witness his rise and strength with his own eyes, and to make him endure more pain and torture. So, Lin Feng blew a whistle softly, and Orlan immediately stopped attacking and turned back to Lin Feng. Its eyes reveal its loyalty and awe to its master, as if saying, "Master, I have already taught this old man a lesson for you." The Zhao family only came back to their senses from their panic at this moment. Zhao Ting looked at Lin Feng angrily, her eyes full of resentment and unwillingness. "Lin Feng, it's fine if you don't forgive me, but now you actually let the dog bite my dad. I will sue you until you are bankrupt." Zhao Ting thought this was a great opportunity. She could take this opportunity to sue Lin Feng in court and demand huge compensation. In her opinion, as long as she could force Lin Feng into a desperate situation, Lin Feng would definitely compromise and agree to her request. Would Lin Feng care about her threats? Of course not. Orlan looked at Zhao Ting with a fierce look, ready to fight again. Lin Feng did not let Orlan continue attacking. He patted Orlan's head gently, signaling it to calm down. Today's humiliation of the Zhao family was enough, and now he couldn't let the Zhao family feel fear of him. The end of the world has just arrived, and he has plenty of time to play with the Zhao family. He said to Zhao Ting casually. "Want to sue me? Great. Go ahead and sue me. I'm always welcome. You just want money, I'm waiting for you to come and get it." After saying that, Lin Feng pulled Orlan and turned to walk towards his villa. Chapter 21. Zhao Ting supported Zhao Jiangguo and walked through the crowded corridor of the hospital with difficulty. Due to the sudden drop in temperature, patients with colds, flu, and other diseases have flocked in, and the hospital has already been overcrowded. The doctor just glanced at Zhao Jiangguo's wound and gave him a simple rabies vaccine. After doing some basic bandaging, he impatiently urged them to leave. Zhao Ting was very dissatisfied when she saw this. She insisted on having her father hospitalized, hoping to extort more money from Lin Feng. But the doctor looked at Zhao Jiangguo's minor injury with a look of disdain on his face. Her request was directly rejected and no bed was arranged for her. Zhao Ting had no choice but to take Zhao Jiangguo home. As soon as they entered the door, the whole family including Zhang Jiang sat around the sofa, and the atmosphere seemed a little solemn. Zhang Jiang was the first to break the silence, and he spoke righteously. "That BD Lin Feng is such a BD that he actually let the dog bite my uncle like this. We must not let him off easily." His tone was full of anger, and he seemed to be eager to settle the score with Lin Feng right away. But, he could only sit in a wheelchair and satisfy his craving for food. However, Zhao Ting didn't care about his words. She glanced at Zhang Jiang and snorted coldly. "Humph, useless thing. You are so capable, but how come you didn't have any temper at all in the community square just now? You only lose your temper when you get home. I think you are worse than a piece of trash now." Hearing this, Zhang Jiang silently lowered his head, clenched his fists, and his knuckles turned slightly white. He knew very well that he was just an insignificant person in this family, a waste that was looked down upon by others. "Isn't all this caused by your family? Otherwise, how could I be like this today?" However, he could only keep this thought deep in his heart, and he dared not show it at all. Because he still needs to rely on Zhao Ting's family for his livelihood, at least here he has a place to stay. At this time, Li Huan interrupted, with a hint of urgency in her voice. "Stop arguing about these useless things. The most important thing now is to find a way to get more money from Lin Feng. Those loan sharks are not to be trifled with. They may come knocking on your door at any time, we won't even be able to keep this home by then. It's freezing outside, where can we go? I don't want to freeze to death outside." Li Huan touched upon the crux of the problem, which was also the issue that the four of them had been worried about. This sudden cold wave not only caused the temperature outside to drop sharply, but also made their hearts cold. When Zhao Jiangguo heard Li Huan's words, the anger in his heart was ignited again. He was about to speak loudly, but it hurt his wound and made him grimace in pain. He could only speak word by word. "Damn it, I think we should just call the police and have that BD arrested. Let him compensate me for my medical expenses and mental damages. I can't swallow this anger. I must make him pay the price." When Zhao Ting heard what Zhao Jiangguo said, a gleam of light flashed in her eyes. During this period of time, Lin Feng brought them too much humiliation. If it weren't for the family's lack of money, she agreed to let Lin Feng go to jail, but she would not ask for compensation from him. "Dad, you're right. We really can't let Lin Feng live so happily. But calling the police may not be the best option. People like Lin Feng are very cunning, and we may not be able to catch him. Besides, even if we catch them, we may not get the compensation we want." Zhao Jiangguo and Li Huan fell into deep thought after hearing what Zhao Ting said. They know what Zhao Ting said makes sense, but what can they do? At this time, Zhang Jiang suddenly spoke. "How about we find a lawyer? I heard lawyers are very good, they will definitely be able to help us find a solution." When Zhao Ting heard this, a hint of approval flashed in her eyes. She had already thought of hiring a lawyer, but she had never said it out loud. "Yes, find a lawyer. We can find a professional lawyer and ask them to help us come up with some advice. We will definitely make Lin Feng pay the price he deserves." When Zhao Jiangguo and Li Huan heard what Zhao Ting said, they all nodded in agreement. They knew this was the best solution at the moment. Zhao Jiangguo frowned and spoke again. "It's a good idea, but we don't know any lawyers at all. Lin Feng handled all the family matters in the past, so how would we know about this?" Zhao Ting thought about it and then said. "Well, don't worry, Sun Yu's ex-boyfriend is a lawyer. I can ask her for help." When Li Huan heard this, she immediately slammed the table and stood up and said, "What? You still dare to look for Sun Yu? If she hadn't taken you to that plastic surgery center, you wouldn't have ended up like this. Look at you now, you look like a ghost, it's really heartbreaking." Zhao Ting felt a little embarrassed by what Li Huan said, but she still insisted on explaining. "Mom, Sun Yu was also kind enough to help me. She didn't know the operation would fail. And didn't Sun Yu give us 20,000 yuan as compensation afterwards? Besides, we don't have any other options except Sun Yu." Obviously, Zhao Ting's family didn't know that Sun Yu took a kickback of 200,000 yuan. Zhao Jiangguo sighed and said, "Ting Ting, your mother is right. Sun Yu has indeed caused us a lot of trouble. But now, we really need her help. Try to contact her and see if she can help us." Zhao Ting nodded in agreement. She knew that her family was in a difficult situation and they needed to try every possible means to solve the problem. Although Sun Yu had hurt them before, now she might be their only lifeline. Afterwards, Zhao Ting found Sun Yu and told him the whole story with a serious expression. She described in detail how Lin Feng had let his dog bite her father, and the difficult situation their family was now facing. After listening to Zhao Ting's narration, Sun Yu did not show much expression on his face. She thought about it for a while, then agreed readily. She said she would try her best to contact her ex-boyfriend and ask him to help handle the case. At the same time, they were also comforting Zhao Ting, telling them not to call the police and to wait for news from her ex-boyfriend. Zhao Ting heard Sun Yu's answer and agreed with great joy. She couldn't help but feel grateful. She felt that Sun Yu was really her good friend and was willing to help her at this time. However, Zhao Ting didn't know that Sun Yu actually had other plans in mind. She didn't really want to help Zhao Ting, but instead told Lin Feng about it. He wanted to gain Lin Feng's favor through this matter. Chapter 22. When Lin Feng saw the message from Sun Yu, it was already the next morning. He didn't take it too seriously, and even if they did call the police, he wouldn't be worried at all. The police know far more than the general public. The sudden drop in temperature is abnormal. Various emergency incidents emerge one after another, and the police must be busy dealing with them. How could they have the time to take care of trivial matters like Zhao Ting's family? The glaring red numbers on the thermometer showed that the outdoor temperature had dropped to -25 degrees Celsius. Lin Feng walked to the spacious floor-to-ceiling window and stared at the heavy snow falling outside. This once bustling neighborhood is now covered with white snow, like a fairy tale world clad in silver. There was not a single person in sight outside the window. The southern residents were clearly unable to adapt to the extreme cold. They can only stay at home and rely on air conditioners and electric heaters for warmth. However, Lin Feng knew that this was just the beginning. According to his experience in his previous life, the temperature will continue to drop, and within a few days, the power supply will be restricted. By then, electricity can only be used for simple lighting, boiling water, charging mobile phones and other small appliances. And those high-power heating equipment will not be able to be used. By then, the entire room will become like an ice cellar, almost indistinguishable from the outside. But Lin Feng doesn't have to worry about these things at all, as he has dozens of generators stored in his space. It can be started at any time to provide sufficient electricity for the home. As for the heating problem, Lin Feng doesn't have to worry about it. The fireplace in the house was always burning. The blazing fire not only brings warmth, but also gives people a sense of security. Compared to the dry hot air from air conditioning, the warmth of a fireplace is more comfortable and pleasant. Afterwards, Lin Feng carefully prepared a hearty breakfast for himself. The food on the table is so delicious and tasty that it is enough to make people salivate. He sat leisurely in front of the TV, ready to enjoy his breakfast time. However, when he turned on the TV and changed several channels, but I found that all the news were reporting the same shocking news: global temperatures were dropping sharply. Dear viewers, last night an unprecedented strong cold air current swept across the world, causing unprecedented drastic changes in temperature. According to the latest information we have learned, the temperature in various places has generally dropped to -25 degrees Celsius, and some places have even broken the extreme cold record of -30 degrees Celsius. On the screen, the host was reporting the news with a serious face and a clear and powerful voice. At present, experts are making every effort to investigate the specific reasons for this cooling, and they all say that this cooling will not last long. Please don't panic, stay at home as much as possible, keep warm, and avoid going out. Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer in his heart when he heard these official words. Oh, that's easy to say. Anyone who believes it is naive. How can this cold wave pass so easily? He knew very well that under such extreme weather conditions, official rescue and material distribution were often difficult to arrive in a timely manner, let alone in the face of a global cold wave. Trust the experts? Humph, those so-called experts probably don't even know how long this cold wave will last. Lin Feng shook his head contemptuously, feeling very disappointed with the official attitude. However, these are not important to him. He had his own safe house and sufficient supplies to cope with this sudden cold wave. Thinking of this, Lin Feng felt an inexplicable sense of security in his heart. He shook his head gently, put those annoying thoughts behind him, and continued to enjoy his breakfast time. Before Lin Feng finished his breakfast, his cell phone started to emit harsh notification sounds. I picked up my phone to check, and saw messages flying around in the owner's group. Ah! Finally I can take a good rest. This cold wave comes at the perfect time. Yes, I am exhausted too. This time I can finally take this opportunity to relax. What's the point of relaxing? The whole world is so cold. I can only stay at home. Discussions in the group were going on one after another, but surprisingly, no one seemed to be worried about this sudden cold wave. Instead, I felt a bit relieved. Lin Feng looked at the news and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. These people are really ignorant and fearless. This cold snap is no joke, yet they are still here being complacent. He knew very well that in the face of this crisis, only smart people could see the clues and prepare in advance. Those who are blindly optimistic will probably suffer the consequences soon. At this moment, a message suddenly popped up in the group, sent by Aunt Zhao in the capacity of the neighborhood committee director. Hello everyone, I am Aunt Zhao, the director of your neighborhood committee. I think everyone has seen the news on TV, so I am here to remind everyone not to cause trouble for me. Otherwise, after the cold wave passes, I will report everything to the relevant departments. Don't blame me for being rude then. As soon as Aunt Zhao said this, the group fell silent instantly. People are not really afraid of her, but they don't want to cause trouble for themselves. As the saying goes, it is easier to see the king of hell than to deal with little devils. Although Aunt Zhao is not a high-ranking official, she still has a certain say in the community. However, just when the group was silent, a discordant voice suddenly sounded. FKU, Neighborhood Committee Director. Who the hell are you to be so pretentious here? Do you really think you're a big shot? Stop talking nonsense here. The person who spoke was Wang Bo, a well-known rich second generation who was usually arrogant and domineering, and Aunt Zhao didn't dare to mess with him at all. Seeing this, Aunt Zhao hurriedly explained. Master Wang, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not targeting you. I'm talking about troublemakers like Lin Feng. They always make people worry. When Lin Feng saw this, he was furious. What the hell, did I provoke you? Why are you dragging me into this? This old guy is really good at looking for trouble. Wang Bo, you can't afford to offend me, so you come to offend me? Do you think I'm a soft persimmon that's easy to bully? He immediately tagged Aunt Zhao in the group and responded bluntly. You old fool, you are living a dog's life at your age. Don't think I don't know what you are thinking. Don't mess with me, or you will be in trouble. Aunt Zhao's face turned red and white after being repeatedly criticized, but she continued to speak with a stiff upper lip. Lin Feng, don't think you are great just because you have a few bucks. People like you are far inferior to young Master Wang. You are not even on the same level at all. After hearing what Aunt Zhao said, Wang Bo couldn't help but frown. Although he is usually arrogant and domineering, it doesn't mean he has no brains. He could see that Aunt Zhao was deliberately trying to sow discord in order to get him to deal with Lin Feng. Ha ha ha, you're right, Lin Feng is no match for me. But you don't need to tell me, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Besides, who do you think you are? In my eyes, you are nothing. Chapter 23. Wang Bo's words were sharp and direct, leaving Aunt Zhao speechless. I wanted to refute, but found myself speechless. Although Wang Bo did not target Lin Feng, what he said made Lin Feng very uncomfortable. What do you mean I can't compare with you? You used to be a rich second generation, but now the end of the world has come. In a few days you will find that money is just a number, not even as good as paper. The supplies that Lin Feng has stockpiled can make him a well-deserved wealthy man. So Lin Feng continued to send a message in the group. Compare with you? Why should I compare with you? Are you worthy? Don't think too highly of yourself. Only people like Aunt Zhao will take you seriously. As soon as these words were spoken, they immediately caused an uproar. Many people knew that Lin Feng bought Villa number 1. Although it is worth tens of millions, it is nothing to Wang Bo. But everyone was just there to watch the fun and no one spoke. But Aunt Zhao was different. How could she miss the opportunity to lick Wang Bo? Before Wang Bo could say anything, she immediately tagged Lin Feng in the group. You are such a fool, you dare to say that young Master Wang is not worthy of you. Your money is nothing in young Master Wang's eyes. As soon as Aunt Zhao finished speaking, Wang Bo's message was also released. Ha! Originally I didn't take a nobody like you seriously, but now it's different. I'll let you know the consequences of angering me. Lin Feng raised a mocking smile and responded coldly. Then let's wait and see who will have the last laugh. After sending the message, Lin Feng left the group chat without hesitation. He was too lazy to get entangled with those who could only argue verbally. Time will tell who is capable and who is not, no further explanation is needed. The temperature is still dropping, but not quickly, and has now reached -288 degrees C. After dinner, he quickly put on his thick winter clothes. Holding his loyal companion Orlan, he came to the underground parking lot from the back door on the first floor. The originally empty parking lot has now become crowded and bustling. The elderly are happily dancing in the square, while the children are chasing and playing. Everyone is resisting the cold in their own way. However, when Lin Feng walked out of the underground first floor, his appearance attracted the attention of the people around him. Many people looked at him sideways, and some even pointed and talked behind his back. Look, he's the one who quarreled with Wang Bo in the group. Now he dares to come out. Isn't he afraid that Wang Bo will retaliate against him? You are young and full of energy. You will regret it when you suffer a loss. It's hard to say. What if he is hiding his true abilities? Lin Feng didn't care about these discussions. He knew very well that victory or defeat in words was not important, what was important was action and strength. After walking around, I still couldn't see Zhao Ting's family. It seems that yesterday's conflict was a big blow to them. They may need some time to calm down and will not come out in the short term. However, Lin Feng had no idea that Aunt Zhao was hiding in a corner, watching his every move closely. She was filled with resentment and secretly told Wang Bo the news that Lin Feng had escaped. For her, this is a perfect opportunity for revenge. Not long after, Wang Bo also appeared wrapped in a thick cotton coat, holding a majestic hunting dog in his hand. This hunting dog has a strong physique and fierce eyes. You can tell at first glance that it is a fierce dog that is not easy to mess with. Seeing Wang Bo coming out, Aunt Zhao immediately acted like an obedient slave. He walked quickly up to him and said with a smile on his face. Master Wang, don't worry, I'm here to help you keep an eye on Lin Feng. His every move will not escape my eyes. As she spoke, Aunt Zhao stretched out her hand and pointed to where Lin Feng was. A sly smile appeared on her face as she continued. You see, he also brought a dog out. But compared with the hunting dog you bought from abroad at a high price, his dog is nothing compared to the big one. Aunt Zhao's words were really a flattery that hit the nail on the head. Wang Bo was already quite proud of his hunting dog, and after hearing Aunt Zhao's compliments, I felt even more ecstatic, and my resentment towards Aunt Zhao was slightly alleviated. Then, Wang Bo held his head high and walked towards Lin Feng's location step by step, leading his mighty hunting dog. His steps were firm and powerful, and every step seemed to show his confidence and arrogance. At this time, Lin Feng also noticed Wang Bo's arrival. He looked at Wang Bo calmly and firmly. Orlan stood beside Lin Feng, glaring at the hunting dog beside Wang Bo, his eyes revealing his unyielding courage. It growled, as if warning the hounds not to act rashly. Wang Bo walked to a place 2 meters away from Lin Feng and stopped. The two looked at each other. It seemed as if sparks were flying between the two of them. Wang Bo said in his condescending tone. Are you Lin Feng? Lin Feng remained calm and responded fearlessly. Yes, who are you? Lin Feng had never met Wang Bo, but he had guessed the other party's identity from Wang Bo's aura and words. He said this on purpose to embarrass Wang Bo. Sure enough, as soon as Lin Feng finished speaking, Wang Bo's face became even gloomier. As a prominent figure in the community, he is used to being looked up to and respected by others, and does not allow anyone to look down on him. He widened his eyes, stared at Lin Feng closely, and said coldly. I'll only tell you once, my name is Wang Bo. Didn't you call me by my name in the group today? Now I'll teach you a lesson, so you know who you can and can't mess with. The atmosphere in the entire underground parking lot was strangely depressing and quiet, as if even the air had frozen. Everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Feng and Wang Bo, as if this was a storm about to erupt. No one dared to approach easily, and no one dared to make any sound. Everyone held their breath, quietly waiting for the duel between the two. At this moment, time seemed to slow down, and every second was filled with tension and anticipation. Lin Feng looked at Wang Bo with a firm gaze, and his voice was calm and powerful. There are many people in this world that I cannot afford to offend, but you are definitely not one of them. Wang Bo was angered by Lin Feng's words and felt that his dignity was challenged. He must save face, otherwise how will he survive in the community in the future? So he suddenly loosened the rope in his hand and let the ferocious hunting dog rush towards Lin Feng. As Lin Feng's loyal bodyguard, Orlan would naturally not sit idly. Bye. Chapter 24. Although it is smaller than a hunting dog, it has no intention of retreating when facing danger. It protected Lin Feng tightly, ready to engage in a fierce fight with the hunting dog. However, at the critical moment when the hunting dog was about to fight with Orlan, Lin Feng suddenly turned around and took out a baseball bat from the space. He gripped the stick tightly, used all his strength, and swung it violently. With a click, the baseball bat hit the hound's head hard. Suddenly, blood splattered everywhere, and the hunting dog let out a scream and fell to the ground, obviously dead. The scream echoed throughout the parking lot, making people tremble with fear. Wang Bo's face turned pale instantly when he saw this. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be so decisive and ruthless. Coming back to his senses, Wang Bo stretched out his trembling finger and pointed at Lin Feng, his eyes filled with anger and fear. You actually dared to kill my hunting dog, I will destroy you. Lin Feng glanced at him coldly, with a mocking smile on his face. You want to destroy me? Then I'd better destroy you first. After saying that, Lin Feng swung the baseball bat in his hand again, this time aiming at Wang Bo's outstretched arm. He swung the baseball bat hard, and it hit Wang Bo's arm with a loud bang. Crack! The crisp sound of breaking bones was heard, accompanied by Wang Bo's screams, which instantly spread throughout the crowd of onlookers. Everyone covered their ears, expressions of horror on their faces. They watched Wang Bo fall to the ground in pain, his arm twisted into an abnormal angle, blood flowing out from between his fingers, staining the ground red. Too cruel. A chill ran down everyone's spine. Lin Feng had just killed Wang Bo's hunting dog, and now he had crippled him again. His methods were truly chilling. The huge reversal made it difficult for everyone to accept it. Originally everyone thought that Wang Bo could completely defeat Lin Feng. After all, he was known in the community for being overbearing and fierce. But no one expected the result to be like this. Not only was Lin Feng not defeated by Wang Bo, but he defeated Wang Bo with lightning speed. This reversal shocked and unbelievable everyone. Just as everyone was shocked, Aunt Zhao rushed forward. She helped Wang Bo up, her face full of tension and worry. She raised her head and glared at Lin Feng, her tone full of anger and threats. You ignorant beast, how dare you hurt Master Wang? You are really tired of living. I'm telling you, you'd better stay here and wait for the police to come. Don't go anywhere. Do you think you can escape from the Wang family's clutches? Even if you can run to the ends of the earth, the Wang family can still catch you back. As soon as Aunt Zhao's words came out, they were immediately echoed by the people around her. They all wanted to take this opportunity to curry favor with Wang Bo, so they expressed their opinions one after another. Yes, that's right. I'll call the police right now and bring him to justice. Let him know what the law is. That's right, call the police right away. We'll be guarding him right here, we can't let him get away. Lin Feng watched these fence-sitters coldly, their expressions made him feel sick. He raised the baseball bat in his hand, his eyes were sharp, and he spoke coldly. Humph, don't think I don't know what you are thinking. Aren't you just trying to take advantage of Wang Bo's opportunity to step on me? Let me tell you, I, Lin Feng, have never been afraid of anything, and I will never bow to power. I'm leaving now, and I want to see who dares to stop me. After saying that, Lin Feng held up the baseball bat in one hand, held the loyal Orlan's hand with the other, and walked towards home with firm and calm steps. After Lin Feng's figure disappeared around the corner, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Several people who were watching from a distance immediately gathered around Wang Bo. Their eyes were focused on Wang Bo's bloody wound. Oh, this injury looks serious. We need to rush to the hospital for treatment. Don't worry, I'm already calling the emergency number. However, what came from the other end of the phone was a cold, busy tone. Whether it is the police call or the emergency call, they are all busy without exception. What's going on today? Why can't I get through on the phone? They tried calling several people, but the result was always the same, no one answered the phone. Faced with this situation, everyone had no choice but to give up the idea of a making a phone call. They carefully supported Wang Bo and took him to Aunt Zhao's home nearby. Although Aunt Zhao was a little flustered, she still tried her best to do some simple treatment for Wang Bo's wounds. During this process, Wang Bo's cries of pain came one after another, as if every movement made him feel heart-wrenching pain. However, Aunt Zhao is not a professional doctor after all. Although she tried her best to treat the wound, the effect was limited. Moreover, she was filled with worry and fear. What if Wang Bo's injury worsened or even led to disability? Wouldn't she, an innocent bystander, be implicated? Others have also recognized the seriousness of the problem. They began to find excuses to leave, unwilling to stay here any longer. Soon, the originally lively room became empty, with only Aunt Zhao and Wang Bo left. Aunt Zhao felt bad when she saw Wang Bo's miserable expression. She said stubbornly, Master Wang, this is really not a solution. We have to find a way to send you to the hospital or find a professional doctor to treat your wounds. However, the reality is much crueler than imagined. The roads outside had long been covered with thick snow, and neither cars nor other means of transportation could pass. If Wang Bo were asked to crawl to the hospital with such difficulty, his hands would probably be frozen before he even got to the hospital. If that happens, the consequences will be disastrous, not just disability, but there may even be a risk of amputation. Wang Bo tried to contact several doctors, but they were all quite far away. They all declined Wang Bo's generous offer for various reasons. No one was willing to brave the cold weather to treat him. With repeated failures, Wang Bo's face became increasingly gloomy, and his mood became increasingly heavy. If this continued, his injuries would probably become more and more serious, and he couldn't help feeling powerless. At this moment, Aunt Zhao next to her suddenly remembered something, a light flashed in her eyes, and she spoke. Master Wang, I suddenly remembered that the owner of Villa No. 2 is a doctor. Maybe we can ask her for help. When Wang Bo heard this, a glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. He glanced at Aunt Zhao coldly and said, Why don't you go find her? Do you want me to go there myself? Chapter 25. Aunt Zhao was frightened by Wang Bo's look, and she could only walk out of the house in shame. I secretly regretted taking care of this mess. Originally I just wanted to please Wang Bo, I didn't expect to get into such trouble. She muttered as she walked. I didn't get any benefit, and I got into trouble. Aunt Zhao came to Villa No. 2 with a nervous mood. She took a deep breath, plucked up the courage and knocked on the door. Sun Ziyi was alone at home. She listened to Lin Feng's advice and started to she locked the doors and windows tightly and never went out, let alone having any idea what was happening outside. However, the peace was suddenly broken by a rapid knock on the door. Sun Ziyi's heart suddenly tightened and she shivered involuntarily. Who would come to see me at this late hour? Her heart was full of doubts. She slowly stood up and walked towards the back door of the villa with trepidation. Ding ding ding, the knocking on the door continued, as if someone was urging us urgently. Sun Ziyi walked to the door and looked out through the peephole. I saw Aunt Zhao standing outside the door, wrapped tightly up with only a pair of anxious eyes showing. Aunt Zhao, it's too late today. Let's talk about it tomorrow. She didn't want to have too much contact with anyone during this special period, especially someone like Aunt Zhao. However, Aunt Zhao had no intention of giving up, and she continued. Dr. Sun, Wang Bo from our community is seriously injured and needs urgent medical treatment. But you know the situation outside. There is no way to go to the hospital. I have no other choice but to trouble you. Besides, Wang Bo's family is very rich. If you can help him at a critical moment, he will definitely give you a generous reward. Also, you are so beautiful, maybe Wang Bo will fall in love with you because of this, then you can become a rich wife. Aunt Zhao's words were like a torrent that broke through the defenses in Sun Ziyi's heart. As she listened to what Aunt Zhao said, her heart was filled with disgust. She hated the practice of tempting people with money and status. What I hate even more is the attitude of the rich second generation who think that money can solve all problems. She responded coldly. Aunt Zhao, thank you for your kindness. But I don't save people for money or status. If Wang Bo really needs help, I will do my best to save him. But that doesn't mean I will accept your proposal. Please go back and tell Wang Bo to figure it out himself. After hearing Sun Ziyi's response, Aunt Zhao's expression instantly became anxious. She knew Wang Bo's character very well, and if he didn't get timely treatment, the consequences would be disastrous. Moreover, once Wang Bo takes his anger out on her, her life will not be easy. So, Aunt Zhao knocked on Sun Ziyi's door again in a hurry, with a subtle hint of coercion in her voice. Dr. Sun, I have something I must tell you. Wang Bo was beaten by Lin Feng, who lives next door to you. Think about it, isn't this a huge threat to you if this kind of person lives next door to you? He could threaten your personal safety at any time. When Sun Ziyi heard this, she couldn't help but frown. A complex emotion surged in her heart, surprise and confusion. Based on her understanding of Lin Feng, he is not the kind of person who acts impulsively. Is there really some deep-seated reason that made Lin Feng attack Wang Bo? However, Aunt Zhao did not give Sun Ziyi much time to think, she continued. Dr. Sun, I know you are kind-hearted and have excellent medical skills. But you have to think about yourself too. Now, we have a common enemy, and that is Lin Feng. If you are willing to heal Wang Bo's injury, we can unite and deal with Lin Feng together. In this way, you can not only get a generous reward from Wang Bo's family, but also add a guarantee for your personal safety. Sun Ziyi's heart was filled with waves as she listened to Aunt Zhao's words. How could she betray her conscience just for money and status? What's more, Lin Feng once helped her, and she would never forget this kindness. She took a deep breath and said firmly. Aunt Zhao, I'm very grateful that you told me this. But I don't want to get involved in the feud between you two. Please go back. I want to rest. After hearing what Sun Ziyi said, Aunt Zhao showed a trace of disappointment and dissatisfaction on her face. But she also understood that Sun Ziyi was a principled person and would not be easily swayed by others. She sighed helplessly, turned around and left Sun Ziyi's house. After Aunt Zhao left, Sun Ziyi felt mixed emotions. She immediately called Lin Feng. I told him the whole story. There was some worry in her tone, and she wanted to hear Lin Feng's opinion. After listening to Sun Ziyi's narration, Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly, but did not show too much emotion. He said lightly. You don't have to take Aunt Zhao's words too seriously. Even if you really help Wang Bo with his treatment, I won't mind. After all, you are a doctor and your duty is to save lives. Sun Ziyi felt relieved after hearing Lin Feng's words, but then she thought of Wang Bo's injury. But Wang Bo's injuries are too severe. Although my medical skills are good, but without professional medical equipment and medicine, it is almost impossible to make him fully recover. It will only temporarily relieve the pain at best. Lin Feng knew that Sun Ziyi was right, but Wang Bo would never give up. Lin Feng reminded. Miss Sun, Wang Bo is likely to come looking for you again. You must be on guard. If anything happens, contact me immediately. Sun Ziyi felt nervous when she heard this. She knew Wang Bo very well and knew that Lin Feng was telling the truth. Lin Feng knew Sun Ziyi's worries and comforted her softly. Don't worry, I will protect you. If Wang Bo really dares to use force, don't blame me for being ruthless. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Sun Ziyi felt a warm feeling in her heart. It seems she made the right choice. Just as Lin Feng expected, after getting Sun Ziyi's reply, Aunt Zhao immediately reported the situation to Wang Bo truthfully. After hearing this, Wang Bo's anger was beyond words, his eyes flashed with rage, and he cursed loudly. You're a loser. You can't even handle such a small matter. Didn't you tell her that I was injured? How dare she not help me? Aunt Zhao stood aside, so frightened by Wang Bo's anger that she dared not even breathe. She answered tremblingly. Master Wang, I told her very clearly that it was you who asked her to come over. But no matter what I said, she refused to help. It was as if she was determined. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.